accounts, so.
The swear, so, yeah.
That's better. Yes. I was yesterday, and was in, I'm still there tomorrow. On the bus, here, my on the shed.
Money else.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're gonna see with that, is if we do a generator inside the trailer.
Good evening and welcome to the regular town council meeting for April 29th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to stand and recite the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You ask for a quick moment of silence. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, presentations, congratulations and introductions. We have Ron Smith from RHR and Company to talk to us about the audits from the town for the past couple of years.
Yeah, I wanted to kick off, and say that thanks Ron for being here, and coming off vacation like this afternoon. Good to be here. Couple of things that we've been talking about in this budget process is, a little bit of the reformatting that, I've done with this FY 2026 budget. And really try to clarify the general fund side of things, enterprise funds, the capital budgets. And one of the things we talked about is this year's proposal to use more of the fund balance that we typically would. Looks like in years past, we've used each year in the budget around 250,000 of the fund balance. We're more than that this year, so I think there's a question of is that okay if we increase that? So Ron can speak to that. But also part of the reformatting is just changing the way that we do capital budgeting. We are really trying to make sure that things are separated. And so that's, that's a change in just making sure that our capital budgeting is clear as we move through the process. Really, I guess the question, Ron, is are we good with our fund balance? So what we're proposing this year? Jive with what you're seeing.
Am I good to sit right here? You need me to come up here?
I think that's probably fine, I guess.
So,
Yeah.
23, we're ready to wrap up 23. So now we're on process, but we're there. And 24, we're well into that one. It should wrap that up by Memorial Day. So you'll be current. So that in June, we'll be actually talking about your 6-month budget and then 6/30/25. So on 12/31/23, your undesignated, unassigned fund balance, you're gonna land at about $4.5 million, okay? So where we like to see you, 30, 60, 90 days in Pittsfield terms, and typically you guys have been at 120 days, okay? So on a $10 million budget, 800,000 at 30, 1.6 at 60, 2.4 at 90, 3.2. So right there somewhere, that $3 million is the sweet spot for the town of Pittsfield. That $4.5 million that you have, you've got about $1.5 million, and I know you didn't use any for tax relief and 2025 to 6-month budget. But I know that with this budget that you've got proposed, there's $500,000 there. I think that there was some capital, money for some culverts there as well. You've got all of that. There is no doubt about it. And we're well enough into the 2024 audit to say you'll be 4.5 million strong still on 12/31/24.
So let me elaborate on that point. So one of the things that we had always intended to do with capital money was to do 2 culvert replacements, Crawford Road and Sebastopol Road. And so we got those advertised, we got the bids back about 2 weeks ago. We had one bidder, and we had a bid within what we expected. Really, the question, we don't have past bond proceeds, capital money that we had originally intended. We don't have that available. The question really is our fund balance healthy enough to go ahead and award that project that, that we have somebody lined up to do this summer, and utilize fund balance. So that's the piece that, I was talking with Ron about is we are looking to use more of the fund balance. Is it healthy enough to go ahead and get those 2 culvert projects awarded and working on the way we are right now?
Yeah. So the 2 culvert projects, the $500,000 that you're proposing for this next 12-month budget and in 26, you've got all of it. So I don't think that'll hurt your condition, nothing. So what we would say is, going forward, again, you doubled your fund balance, et cetera. You just want to be very careful, going forward. You're using money, you're keeping your mill rate down by using that money. Somewhere down the road, that money may not be there, and you go down to that 90 to 120 days. And that's the luxury you really have of having this fund balance. As you have that luxury to do exactly what you're proposing and advocating, to do. But there's a hard reset on your capital project. That money's gone now. That money that was sitting in reserve for those capital projects, the debt proceeds, 12/31/24, they're gone. So. But really kind of forces you to take a hard reset. And Jack, like you said, we talked about some budgeting practices there that certainly we endorse. But you've got the money there for the culverts, you got the money there for the 26 tax relief for, it was like 325 that you guys were proposing for actual tax relief and, some more money for some other capital projects. So.
Right, so the tax relief, what were the culverts, would they come back at?
2, I wrote it down, 265, I think it was. 265.
And that's in addition to the 468 or whatever it
Yeah,
was
that
that
would
you
be in
were.
addition, so that's, I got this back before I had actually put the budget together, so 265, 200 was the bid on the culverts.
Plus you were proposing 468 or something in this,
Proposed.
right around there. Let's just say 500.
Yeah, just a shade on 482, 795.
Okay,
482.
482, 795.
Plus 265, 200.
That would be pulled from the fund balance.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's.
And that's the talk, that's the tax offset, right?
750,000.
Yeah. And again, this is one time, we wouldn't be putting another budget together using that level of fund balance. But this is, like Ron said, it's kind of a hard reset on capital, getting projects that are in the pipeline through to completion. And then being able to get our use of fund balance so that it's.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would just advocate, when we land your 6/30/26/25 short budget for the 6 months, ended. I think next year for your 26/27 budget, whatever's over and above that sweet spot, I'd probably start looking at redirecting some of that money off into the capital reserve, kind of building those funds back up. So that if you've got other future capital projects, and you will, that's gonna be the thing of need. Paving is obviously the big one that you've got out there. I think probably 6/30/26, you'll finally be in a position to say, okay, here's our sweet spot, here's everything over and above our sweet spot, over and above the 265, the 482 that we use, we got another $500,000, move it over to a capital reserve fund. So, especially since you hit the reset button has been pressed already for you, because you got no more debt proceeds out there.
So what's included in that 482?
The 482, most of it, if you go to over to the left side and you see the line numbers, line 66, you follow over.
This is on the first couple pages.
These,
Yeah.
yeah, if you go to line 66 and you follow it across, you see that in 2024, we used 250.
Yep.
All right, and so you follow that over. That 325 is the equivalent of the 250. In other words, it's just straight reduction of the tax commitment.
Okay.
So we bump that up. And then you go up column number 6, okay? And I had those color coded, and maybe when I photocopied this, the color didn't carry. But everything in column 6 from line 30. All the way down to line 47, I think adds to that 325, except that 77.5. That 77.5 in line 45 is state aid for roads.
Okay.
That we would use for paving, but everything in column 6 between, looks like 29 and 47 would add to that 325 to get to the total on the 42,795. And so ideally we would want to be pretty consistent every year, whether it's 250 or 300, whatever the right number is for reducing the tax payment amount of fund balance. You know, we want to be able to sustain that same number. And then, as Ron said, what's over and above our 90-day to 120-day, we could look at utilizing for additional capital projects in the future.
So the fund balance, the 235, 295, that's the subtotal for capital, line 50.
So that's this 265, 200, that's just. So it changes from 235, 295 up to 265, 200, is that correct? Because that's the culverts number you were talking about.
No, it's in addition
So
to.
it would be basically, actually what it would be, if let's say we awarded the bid.
Okay,
If we awarded the bid, which we'd have to do before July 1, we'd actually really have to do it soon. Really what we're just saying is that we would be making an appropriation of 265, 200 right now out of this year's budget, knowing that fund balance is healthy enough to
Is coming.
cover that
Offset.
and not put this new budget in a position of not being able to fund it from the way we've put it together.
So
What's
this
your
is,
hesitation, Chris?
I don't have a ton of hesitation on it, other than I think there are some of these projects that, I mean, I have some questions on anyway. I don't have hesitation on using the fund balance, although I guess it's a little bit of a different look at it than what I had originally kind of always understood, was that we were always looking for kind of that 6-month level for expenses, budget expense, which would be closer to like 5.4 million, right? I think it's about 800, or 4.8 million.
About 800,000 for
for
30 days,
Yeah.
so 6 days would be about 4.8.
4.8, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
And currently we're gonna end, you're estimating 4.5 when you're done.
yeah,
With
strong,
24.
strong.
Strong 4.5,
Yeah.
okay.
So the other thing that I would add too, you know, before this presidential election and not knowing, you know, what's gonna happen in the next 60, 90 days with a lawsuit. We got $2.5 billion in this state, you know, for infrastructure, right? I know it's still there. I'm not sure, you know, what the mechanisms now are gonna be, you know, as far as getting it down to the local level, you guys,
Sure.
you know, to spend. But I'd also look at it this way. You know, whatever your fund balance policy is, whatever you've got in capital, and if there's a matching requirement, I'd argue you're protecting your fund balance.
Gotcha.
Because if you can go get $1 for 20 cents on the dollar, it's just like money in the bank
Oh,
for you
for
guys,
sure.
and that's my thought, on that, so.
For sure, no, and I like your look at this, Jack, and I appreciate the explanation, it just causes me to kind of rethink the position that I had accepted for the last 3 or 4 years that we kind of were looking at.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I've
I think
never
it
thought of
probably-
it that way. I think that
it all,
makes perfect sense.
I think they've always kind of said that you need the 3 months at a minimum, or you.
That's
you
the
know,
industry standards.
Right,
3 to
yeah,
4
there you
months,
go,
3 to
yeah.
4 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never really thought of this
We've always told
6
them
months,
it's
but,
fixed. Yeah,
I mean, that's. Anyway, if we at least we certainly would have that. We're talking about using roughly 750,000. But that's saying that we are moving, so aside from the culverts, that would be saying that this council agrees that we're gonna move forward on all these other capital projects that you've put down here.
Well, really what we're saying is if we did, we would be within our.
we can do that.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying that 750 is saying that we're gonna do the culverts plus everything that you put forward here.
Right,
Cause we certainly haven't come through all that.
right.
And who knows where we'll stand on that, but either way, we're in a safe spot. I mean, we're 700, we're roughly 750,000 over what we would need for the 6-month period.
And
So-
and also keeping in mind too, that the norm is using 200,000, 250,000, that's the norm.
Sure.
So we're talking about an increase of really 500,000 from the norm, not. So-
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like a brand new 750,000 that we wouldn't have used, we would have, the norm would have been 250.
Yep.
We'd-
Right.
For this scenario, we bump it to 750 for this year.
And there's a little bit of that 482 is digging out of the shortfall that we.
Yeah, so
Had created.
the revenue difference, which you can see pretty clearly up top, from on line 8, general government.
Yeah.
If you go over to,
Where is it, sorry? Okay, yeah.
okay, line 8, general government, and then you go to column 2, you see the 807,084.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everybody with me?
Yeah,
And then you go to the budget we're looking at for FY 2026. Column 6 is with the revenues, 278,950. So there's a big difference in revenues, for general government, which go back to how the capital budget was put together and how some of those revenues were really capital revenues were being realized in the general fund budget. We separated that out. So when you go down here and you look at the 250 going to 325, that additional 100, well, really just 75,000 there, 250 to 325. Is an increase in direct response to that drop in revenue, from column 2 to column 6, but then also to take some of those additional, which would have been capital appropriations, and pulling those out of revenue instead of the tax amendment is also trying to try to account for that drop from column 2 to column 6. So that's about a $487,000 difference in the revenue columns. And we're not filling the whole thing because 250 already would have been there, but we're putting about 200,000 of that. We're putting about half of it back, I think.
Yeah. This budget's not gonna fix it all, but I'll tell you, it really does put a hard reset on it. The other way that I would look at it is, don't forget, this one that's about to end in 2 months, you didn't use any fund balance for this budget.
Right.
So I mean, you could argue 250, do the math, 250 divided by 12,
Really.
325 to 75. If you're not hurt, and I really feel this 25-26 budget is really like a hard reset on it.
Right.
I do
Get
too.
your-
I think we all do.
Yeah,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
I do,
and you're still at 120 days.
is there a benefit to, so you're saying it's gonna take say the 478,000 that was short, or whatever it is. And you're basically cutting it in half. Is there a reason why we wouldn't just fix that entire issue?
Mm.
Where we're,
I'll offer something.
yeah,
If you fix it all in 1 year, what you've done, don't forget, however much you're using, you're keeping your mill rate artificially at a level. So the more you use, the more artificial that mill rate is. So like I say, I think this year it's a good hard reset on everything. Next year, if you find out whatever that delta is, if there's a delta, then I'd say, okay, whatever the math is this year, make up for that math next year, the 26-27 budget, you've done it in 2 years. But I think this year is really gonna hit hard.
yeah, so instead of,
Everything.
so instead of going like 21.75 mil to 25
Yeah.
mil.
You do that
All in 1
You're
year.
doing all that is a tough pill to
Yeah,
swallow
so
right
you're
there.
splitting that
Yeah,
up over.
put it
the
up,
course
that's
of
what
the
I
year.
would do, so.
Hmm.
And really, like I say, by not using any fund balance for the 6-month budget, it really kind of puts the math, right, where it is. And I really think 25, once you get your baseline in 25, with this budget that you guys are trying to, bring across the finish line, I think next year is gonna be an easier one, really to look at whatever is needed, if anything's needed to again, make up for it next year,
Right.
and that spread that delta out over 2 years, not one. So.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, my big concern in this budget is there's not a ton being done for paving,
Paving.
and I just don't, I wonder how you could, make that better. I don't know if it's best to use it with the fund balance or.
122.5, that was in the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
22.5 with 77.5 being the state aid for roads. So we're really not touching the tax base with
Like
paving. So
45,000 or something.
And that commitment, what I saw was a continual commitment of the 122.5 beyond that, right?
I think, looking ahead, we'd like to, we'd probably benefit from sustaining a higher number for paving every year. Get to, 200,000 or 300,000 at least every year, get to a sustainable point. I think this is low for paving. For, the amount of paved roads that we have,
Right,
the amount of work that needs to be done, I think it is low. If Ron said we could pull a couple more dollars out of fund balance, we would.
You got it to pull, the question is, is what's that? I mean, it's one thing to pull money out of fund balance and match it up with an expense. It's another thing to pull money out of fund balance for tax relief, then you really are.
Right. Yeah.
controlling what that mill rate.
yeah, the only reason I'd wanna take it out
Yeah,
is definitely
so I
for,
would definitely endorse, if you're gonna attach
Paving.
it to something like paving, no doubt, I think that I would endorse that for sure.
My rebut to that is though, we have a revow coming next year.
Mhm.
And until we know what the impact of that
not
revow
next,
is
not
gonna be.
next year, 2027.
2026 is the,
It's gonna land in 2027,
why is that?
we can,
4-year.
just the way the schedule's been implemented.
Yeah,
And I actually talked with, Rob about coming and kind of talking about how this will play out over the next couple of years. And, and cost wise too, but the way it's been implemented in quarters instead of thirds. We'd be on a 2027 schedule to get this thing wrapped up.
I think at one point we agreed
That was
on,
not the way it was designed.
I think at one point we agreed here to go with thirds versus quarters.
So. it was-
And it never got relayed to,
It was quarters, but 2 quarters in the third year. It was supposed to be,
right,
you got your third year of your third district or whatever, third territory done, but the roll up was done at that same time. That was the way it was originally designed. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be 24, 25,
I
26.
think there was a miscommunication on,
And I've asked
Gotcha.
Rob to come
I believe,
and kind of talk us through. I think that's a good time to
yeah,
have this whole conversation again, how this plays out, so there won't be any more confusion about.
I mean, my,
There's a lot.
everyone here at the same time from the same person.
That's right.
I mean, I'm just concerned with the, cause last year we did like 100 grand in paving. remember, we went light because of all the different things that we weren't sure about. And then we go light again. It's like 2 years left, we're trying to make up for
Deferred
20.
maintenance, man, I'll tell you. it's a
Well,
tough-
that's the thing, we're
tough
trying to make
choice.
up
Well, and
for
that's why
20 years
we're
of
gonna
this name that's been on the
Commit to twenty
pavement.
twenty-six, do we dare?
But we've gone around this thing again, like if we're gonna commit, we commit to it, I feel, and we do the loan. Right, so.
Well,
120
and that's what we did, but then it was. Yeah,
Or if you commit 122,000, that's 2 million in payment, right? It's about 67,000 a million right now from borrowing it.
Yeah, problem is, now's not the time to borrow. We see interest rates coming down, you know, it's just gonna be a function of when and now. Good idea, always long-term investments, use long-term money,
Right,
but I'll tell you, you wanna wait, you borrow.
That's-
now is
that's
not
why
the
it's-
time to borrow.
and
right, cause we're
not to
looking at
interrupt.
3 to 4, probably 4% even right now, right?
Yeah,
Even
but
so,
this, I've seen them as low as 3.8, 3.9. But
yeah,
remember, there were two, you know, like
Yeah.
2 years ago.
3 years ago, we hit home run.
Shit, I think they were 1 point something.
We did, we got a 1 point something
but
3
that,
years ago.
I mean, to that point, it makes more sense to go. From your fund balance
Use your own money, you do play bank yourself, play bank,
before taking a loan,
Yeah.
think about it.
and it, I mean,
You think about it, you're earning 1 point something percent sitting in your bank account right now. You're gonna
Right.
go borrow at 3 point, let's say 3.8, 4%, 3.8. You're gonna save yourself almost 2.5 cents on the dollar
Right.
using your own money.
and. The only time anybody ever shows up in this council is to bitch about to complain about roads.
Mhm.
That's right.
To complain about roads, and I don't blame
I
them.
walked into the wrong meeting tonight.
Hey, I don't blame them.
I
Like,
prefer you direct.
I drive the same road, so I have the same complaint and. So I guess, I mean, we don't have to make that decision tonight,
But
but
you're
it's
in a good position
but
to
it's
make.
good to know
decisions.
that we could
Exactly.
potentially do that
The only other
at
thing
the
I
end
would
of
look
this
at
budget.
is if we were gonna do that, is potentially taking the additional money and putting it in the capital
Capital
reserve.
reserve now,
Exactly,
To
Yeah.
stick
which is what I was
on,
just about to say.
because your asphalt
Yeah.
costs right now are, I don't know what, I know what they were,
are they gonna be going up or down?
they should be going down, I mean, hopefully, right? I mean.
That all depends on who you talk to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
If
who
you
knows?
watch,
It depends.
right now they're going up,
But I think if you guys needed some money
Right.
for roads and you're kicking this can down the road with deferred maintenance,
Mhm.
you've got some money to use, zero down,
guys.
zero down.
I mean, I would be,
Good.
I'd be okay with committing some more to the,
I would
yeah,
say,
I wouldn't wanna spend it this year, cause I think that we get zero return, or much lower return on what we do.
Yeah, I mean-
why?
I mean, what's it, 140 a ton or better right now?
I don't even
Yeah.
know.
And, well, Annalise probably has that number from what she's been.
Maybe, yeah, but anyway. It's not something we have to decide right now,
But
but
it's
it's
good to know.
certainly good to know where we're at fund balance wise. Nice to know that we're not 3 years behind on
There
audits,
you go.
that's a
Caught
little
up in
easy,
current.
little easier for
Yeah,
us to
trust me,
make
We
decisions.
feel good too.
It helps us make decisions going forward, but what do we need? We don't need to make any decision, right?
Just information.
Kind of giving the state of Pittsfield.
Sure.
So.
Um. Is there a time that we will go over like in depth on the
Yeah,
audits
we'll be back,
themselves?
we'll be back before the end of the 6-month audit, for sure. So we'd like to even come back and look into the crystal ball, where you're gonna be at 6/30/26. That's why I say, we've done enough work in 24. You know, even knowing that you've got a 6-month budget, really what kind of those look like in those transition budgets. I think you're gonna be stronger than 4.5 on
Right,
31,
right.
24. I just don't wanna be irresponsible and say, we got another $500,000 there, but I
Right.
think you're stronger. I do.
Yeah,
So,
well, and some of this, like, I'd like to know, I mean, I'm not a audit expert or anything, but there's. Like the managerial report or
Yeah.
some of those things where we can learn from,
work on best practices.
there you go.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think we weren't doing the best practices, and I'd like to know
Yeah, and you
where
definitely,
we can.
we had some transition
improve.
issues, but I don't think that there's any doubt that you guys are on the
Right.
straight going up, you know.
But getting that
and certainly
information.
We'll have some best practice,
Right.
comments for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
getting that information to the right people and,
But even doing these federal compliance audits, we're not seeing any question costs or anything. You guys don't have a problem handling the money. It's more of the effort for all the other bookkeeping services. This isn't a small town. Think about it, we're
Right.
running two independent businesses out there, water, wastewater, for goodness sake, so there's a lot going on in this town, so. TIF districts.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there any other questions, comments?
You'll see me probably within the next 6 weeks, for sure, just to confirm this conversation, try to look into that crystal ball for 6/30/26.
Okay,
Perfect,
you guys good? You
yeah.
good?
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Any questions, just let Jack know he knows where to find me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
excellent.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Have a good night. Thank you.
guys do.
Yeah, it made me feel better.
Me too.
That's a first. Where the hell am I?
Wasn't expecting.
Yeah. All right, well, moving on, we have no other presentations or congratulations. New business, Jack, do you wanna read resolution 2542?
Resolution 2542, resolve that the town council waive the bid policy and authorize the town manager to accept the contract with Cole Masonry to do masonry work on the front section of the Pittsfield Public Library for the amount of $10,000.
Look for a motion from the council.
Motion, we accept resolution 2542.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Jack, do you wanna just?
So, we've had window work being done, at the library, and, Chimbro has very generously participated in, helping us get window work done. And as that project has gone on, there's obviously masonry work that needs to be done on the front of the building. And they were able to reach out to a couple of different, masons who would be qualified to do that type of repair. And I understand that there was a big difference in price with the low price being this one that's been provided to the council. And what's timely about it is that it would be easier for both the window crew and the masonry crew if they could be working at the same time. And not one coming in completely after the other, so that's why I thought it was time sensitive, because the window crew started this week actually, and I think the masonry crew could start next week.
Great.
Awesome, thank you, Jim. Are there any questions, comments from the audience on resolution 2542? No, any questions or comments from the council regarding resolution 2542? Any questions? Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2542, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2542 passes. Moving on to resolution 2543, Jack.
Resolution 2543, resolve that town council approve the change in authorized official from Jacob Grant to Jack Whitty for the Northern Water Regional Commission grant awarded on August 9th, 2021 for the Main Street project.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion, we approve resolution 2543.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Jack, this is just basically appointing you versus Jacob.
Yeah, they require that you put an authorized official on the record, and so we're turning in quarterly reports now, and
Yeah.
in order to get it processed, I think, smoothly, my name has to be, officially given
Yeah.
to them for the,
This is for the money for the sidewalks?
yes.
It is.
It's for a piece of it that we've tried to combine our share of the villages
Yeah.
with this. The timing hopefully will still
John,
mesh, we'll see.
close.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Any questions from the audience on resolution 2543? Hearing none, any questions, comments from the council? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution 2543, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2543 passes. Moving on to resolution 2544. Yeah,
Resolution 2544, resolve that the town council accept the offer in drinking water RSF number 25-27 for construction funds for the project titled Pittsfield Main Street Water Main Replacement.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion, we adopt resolution 2544.
One second.
Moved and seconded. And Elise, would you like to talk to us about?
Sure, can you hear me? I'm sitting, okay, so just to clarify, what's happening with this particular project is Jacob had asked us to apply on your behalf to try to get the water main included in the Main Street project, because the water main is the old 1800s past. And what the drinking water program did was they provided these funds to allow, upfront design and have some construction funds. So this is not all construction, I just want to be clear, so that there was no, so everybody understood that they're trying to get the project designed and then have it be shovel ready. So that it would attract, funding, whether it be CDS, because the project itself is a lot more expensive. They've offered, a total amount of $800,000 with $200,000 forgiven. So that would be a $600,000 project. That would be, some of that would be design, some of it would be construction. But they're not gonna allow you to construct anything yet because there's not enough money to do the project. I just wanted to be clear, when you vote on this, that you have the big picture. They're pretty big right now in the, shovel ready concept. And we'll talk about that when we get to library too. So that would be, you would be taking on, $600,000 in future loan with $200,000 grant. They call it forgiveness. So I wanted to be clear on that.
And that would be, that loan would be paid by
The water,
sewer rates, water rates,
right, which is not in the existing rates right now. We don't, obviously, this would be some time out before, this would have to be. And I did a cross, it's about 2.5% interest right now with the drinking water programs. You guys in the past didn't rate well at all. You didn't even get on their list. This year, they offered you 3 different projects. I'm kind of was surprised, honestly, to have 3 of them get that far. But I did an amort on that, and that, I'm just trying to get the right one out here. Hang on just a second. And that looked like it would be about, I think it was $60,000 a year. Yeah, around $60,000 a year, in the water rates.
and that's just for the Main Street project?
Yes.
And that's just to do the design
It's
for it?
not just design, we don't,
Sure.
the design is, I think we had this is just very preliminary, but I think we had a preliminary number of around $500,000 for design, but that, we can sharpen that, that's just to give you an idea. It's quite a long stretch of water main, and survey work that we would do, but
So the $800,000 loan amount,
600 it would be
200 forgiveness.
$600,000 loan, but
Right.
when you apply for it, you have to say 8 because they forgive 200.
right, that's
So
what I
I'm
was,
just trying to make sure I'm upfront with you guys.
And that would
Exactly
impact
that.
rates, so how much? 60,000.
It would be about a $60,000 payment to the water rates.
which is what kind of increase per,
I take
User.
a calculator through real quick, I can give you some kind of a feel, but it's not gonna be 100% accurate because you have fire protection on the water side, so it's not gonna be as bad as this, but I can just give you an idea and there's.
well, you're running. Yeah,
It's about $42. I mean, it
per
per user, per user,
quarter or per year?
per year,
Per year,
yeah. But that's not the only thing the water department has going on right now, I wanna be clear.
yeah,
I think it's a fair offer, but I'm just, the only advantage I see to taking an offer like this, in my way of looking at it, is if you were to be able to attract CDS grant, and this could be your match. Because honestly, I wouldn't want you to have to borrow the rest of it. The project's pretty large. The original estimate for construction was around 7 million, to be honest with you, for the whole water line. But now some of it can't be done, which is why our design wouldn't be as much as this. I just haven't had time to tell you what that would be exactly. And for tonight, I didn't think I really needed it. More a matter of whether we really want to go forward with it. Because you're already gonna have the DOT now coming through and doing that stretch between Madawaska, and town line, and that doesn't give you the chance to get this done. So it's gonna be smaller than this, but that just gets you started and gets you some match money. So that we can try to get you more grant, because obviously you don't have enough money to do the water line yet. But this is something that's out there in time, from what I understand. And might set you up to be able to attract CDS grants. Right now, we're working, we applied on Pittsfield's behalf for a whole nother project for CDS this year, but we're finding that the ones that they're accepting are the ones that already have their match. We've got a lot of, towns that have had to have some like quick votes to prove they have match. So that's the only advantage of taking this right now. It's really your decision.
Yeah, you get 200,000 for.
And the reason you don't, the reason you don't track more grant on the water side with the drinking water program is, believe it or not, your water rates are low. Compared to the NHI here, I mean, they look at all those factors and we run their rate calculator, and you just don't get better than that. In the past, you got no grant, so obviously you're getting some now, which is better than none. So it's kind of seeding a future project, but I just wanted to make you aware that all the drinking water program would allow you to do right now is design it, put it to the side, and then attract more money, but then you have more than the design sitting there as match or towards construction. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
So that's for the, yeah.
You can choose not to do
That-
I'd kind of like to hear about all three of
You
these.
want to hear
together.
all three?
Yeah,
kind Yeah,
I would like
Yeah,
to
that'd be
before
good.
voting on it, you know.
because the Birchwood one, I thought is designed already.
It is.
So is that for the?
Yeah, let's go
construction?
through all of them,
Okay.
and I'll explain
Yeah,
them
let's do that.
clearly, and then we can talk about them again.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
So,
Are you gonna?
oh yeah, we can do resolutions for all three of them, I guess. Resolution. Yeah, resolution 2545, Jack.
Resolution 2545, resolve that the town council accept the offer in the drinking water SRF number 2025-28 for construction fund for the project titled Pittsfield Birchwood Terrace Water Main Replacement.
Look for a motion from the council.
Can we read them both at the same time?
Sure, resolution 2546, Jack.
Resolution 2546, resolve that the town council accept the offer in the drinking water SRF number 2025-29 for construction funds for the project titled Pittsfield Library Street Water Main Replacement.
Look for a motion from the council for resolution 2545 and 2546.
We still gonna do three independents, or are we gonna, because we have to act on them independently, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, make a motion that we adopt resolution 2545. Open for discussion. Either way would be, because if you open for discussion, you gotta make another motion at the end to accept it. But yeah, open for discussion, okay, yep, gotcha. All right, amend that motion, I make a motion that we open for discussion, resolution 2545
And 46.
and 46.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, Anna.
Okay, so, that resolution, I can never remember the number, 2545 is for Birchwood.
Birchwood, yeah.
And that was the one that we talked about, at one of the meetings I was at, not too long ago, maybe in February, can't remember anymore. And that, again, is a 25% forgiveness, and that makes you whole on the water side. You did not have a match, and you had town funds listed in there to make it whole. And this would make you whole on that job for the water, as long as it all came in on bid. Now, mind you, we have not bid it yet. That's because we were waiting for 2 easements still. But this gives you the funds for contingency, which you didn't have, and inspection services, which you did not have, and some additional construction money. So just to be clear, it's for those 3 different things. That would how it would show on the pay rec. And we did apply for this because we didn't have those funds. And this one, I did an amort on that, and I think it was around $16,000. I have too many papers, sorry about this. I'm not a very organized person, but I think it was around $17,000 per year. For the Birchwood project. To make that whole, we just don't have enough funds without doing that, and that was the one, in my priority list, that's number 1, for us to go ahead with.
So you're up to like 77,000 a year to make it whole for those two.
If you add
projects.
them together, right, yeah, which obviously they'll impact the budget at different times, but Birch would probably go first.
Okay, do you wanna speak to 2546?
Yeah, so
Pittsfield
2546, quite some time ago, we got you a grant for library water main design. And that was all grant, and we completed that and that project shelved. And Jacob had asked me to apply for the construction money for that, or the remainder of the cost. And what they offered you was a loan of 1.5 million with, again, 25% forgiveness, which is $375,000. And that was to do library water main only, no other utilities, and trench pavement and all of that. It doesn't include any, road improvements, it's just the utility side. And I did, work on that. And these are based on the drinking water program's current fees and their 2.5% interest that they're at right now. Just takes me a second, sorry. It was around, yeah, it's around 33,000. And that's 33, yeah, 33,000.
is the term different than the,
Yeah. Than the Main
Hang on,
Street
hang
one?
on.
than the Main Street? 'Cause
I
it's-
gave them backwards too, I apologize, I don't have my glasses on.
No worries,
You
okay,
add them up, they're the same, but this is the one I just gave you, the 33,000 is Main Street.
30,
I
okay.
apologize for that.
no worries, because I was like, it should be almost exactly double.
There's worries when you
So
don't bring your
library.
glasses and you have all these little numbers.
Libraries, the 66,000.
Yes, yeah, sorry about that.
Or 60.
No worries.
Birchwood 17. And.
Total of 110,000.
that's
And these
up
are offers, you're not obligated to accept them.
And so if we did all of them, what does that do? Per quarter,
And I don't want you to hold, these are just, this is just a
Well,
preliminary.
it's ballpark.
60 was 42, 110 would be close to 75 of user per year.
Oh, I got about $83.
$83 per user fee.
And per quarter, it'd be
20
about
bucks a
20
quarter.
bucks, 21. And then where we do the fire protection, that's 30, I can't remember exactly how you fell in that, but the max you can charge the town from the utility for fire protection is 30% of gross revenue. And I can't remember exactly in our rates if we're at 30%.
I can tell you.
Okay, you got it right there, perfect. But it's substantial. Obviously we'd have to do a rate increase. We talked about that a couple of years ago. I'm doing a water rate increase and
184,000.
right now, yeah, is how much the town pays the revenue for the water budget. And if we did a rate increase, that number would also increase because we have to charge the town a certain percentage of the gross revenue
Can you
based
back
on
that up a little bit? So you said the maximum that you could charge a town is 30%
of gross revenue,
of gross revenue?
gross water utility revenue.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're charging the town 30%?
So how it works is when you do a water rate increase or
Yeah.
water rates, a portion of the water rates are the fire protection side of it.
Yep.
And there's the chapter 65 fire protection rules and chapter 69, I think is the actual correct chapter. And there's a formula in there that you have to use.
Okay,
And that formula, you have to plot it on a chart, and it's a water usage type of a thing and population based. And however that comes out on the chart tells us what we're allowed to charge the town. There are different waivers and different things associated with it. Like North Haven actually is allowed to charge more. But that's a special case where they don't have hardly any users. Here, that would probably not be permitted because there's substantial, 1,400 users is pretty decent.
okay, so I'll put back one way. So if I live on the Beans Corner Road
Mhm.
in Pittsfield, and I'm a taxpayer, what do I benefit if I live on the Beans Corner Road at $184,000?
All I'm saying is those are the rules. That's how.
No,
it's
I
done.
mean, I'm trying to understand the benefit
for people that don't, in my district, that live out of town,
Yeah,
what is the benefit?
I mean, you don't pay water rates, is what you're saying, you're just saying that you pay taxes, and what is the benefit to you that you have to pay a certain portion of the water fire protection side? Is that
So
what
it's
you're?
regulatory, right? Like there's no.
It's regulatory, this is not something that I promote, it's the PUC. And it's really, it's done everywhere, it's
Right.
every single place I work.
So is it on a flex or is it just like, this is what it is, period? Like,
It's
this is-
kind of,
this
this
is
is
the-
what it is, but there are
what is that?
nuance, I mean, it's the same rules, but like bigger communities, it's not 30%. Because
Okay.
when you do the math, you come out with a much smaller number, so I believe here it's actually less than that. I just don't have I don't remember, it's been a while since I've done the water rate increase here,
Okay,
but it's a number within that. You're just not allowed to charge more than 30%, is what I'm saying.
So it's just tax-based subsidized water.
Right, so like in a community like Stonington, which has no users hardly at all, when you do that chart and that calculation, we come up with should be 50%.
Mhm.
But the rule said you can't charge more than
more than
30%.
30, okay.
And here I believe it's less than that because you have more users and the water use is higher and there's businesses here.
So you did the calculation on that 184,000, or is that something that's done somewhere else?
I have done that work and the PUC reviewed it and approved it, and that's what your current rates are based on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
was just trying to be honest and let you know that when the rates do go up, that number is gonna be impacted as well.
Go ahead.
But we wouldn't do it in a non-budget fashion, we would, obviously do it when it was appropriate for the community. That's how we've done it before, based on when we're ready to, ahead of the budget cycle, not right now.
So. So these. The loans here would. The construction would be done on 2 of the projects. And the third one would be for design and be shelved for a later date.
And there'd be money
And it would be-
for future construction,
Right,
and whatever you chose to use that money for.
right. And it would put us in a better position to get more grant funding down the
It
road
would be
because we have a
sure.
project that's
Yes,
on the shelf ready to go.
it clearly would, but it's just how it works now.
But if we were to approve this, at least Birchwood and Library would actually be constructed and completed and done
Correct.
for the water on those 2.
You would have,
roads.
as long as when we bid it, then life is happy and, the bidding climate is, you got good bids recently, but Pittsfield generally bids better than other locations, because it's people near that do construction around here. It's in a central Maine area, so tends to bid better.
It's real, they had dollar bill signs in their eyes.
Well. 3 years ago, you provided us, and I think Jason, you have that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
3 years ago, you provided us a rating of the water infrastructure that we knew about, and for whatever reason, Library Street rings true to me that it was in good condition.
I believe that water line is not in great condition. It's cast iron, old cast iron, and at the time, we
Yeah.
were asked to do this. It may say good on there, I don't
It does.
remember, I didn't think it did, but I can't recall.
No, so you might be thinking of the sewer, so the sewer side's fair.
The sewer side
Okay,
was bad.
And it's PVC on the sewer side, but the water side is in poor condition. Yeah,
There have been leaks.
it's cast iron. Stinson to library, design complete, awaiting construction funding, and here's the construction funding, I guess. You also have Main Street is both in poor condition, those are cast iron, those have both leaked from Merrimack, I don't even know what Merrimack is, but Merrimack to Stinson, Stinson to Sunset.
It might have been, that might,
Merrimack,
That
the
might be-
backside of,
Merrimack is extension down by the mill.
yeah.
so anyway,
okay.
And this
everything,
hydrant.
for the water side, everything's
1,000.
in bad condition. Although, yeah, Birchwood says good, but it says construction plan for 2025,
That's
so I'm guessing
Only
that's why it
because-
says it's good.
right, exactly, because we already,
It
What we've
could be
already
good.
we already talked about it and already got the money for the, at that
Okay.
time.
So my question is, with Main Street, how would that bump up against a VPI project? Like, And
I mean, I honestly don't know where you are with that project, like what your thoughts are and when that will happen. I thought it was like 3 years out.
So the last update that we're able to get is that the DOT is putting their funding together to do the final design. We thought that would potentially be ready to go in 2025 to get going on the final design. That's looking more like 2026. So if you have final design that's completed in 2026, then they go for I think they call it the RAISE grant to actually get the federal construction funding to build it. But you're looking out to 2027, 2028 for that construction to actually happen. So it is a ways out, and the final design piece is a year further out than we had originally thought.
okay. And so this could occur before that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could occur. I said, I want to say could, if
Yeah.
we can get more money. Obviously, you don't want to borrow that much to do a water line. It was just talked about. I mean, why are we doing all this work in the road and leaving that old cast iron water main there? That was just some of the conversations that took place before at some of the other meetings, so Jacob thought it might just be good to try, and all we were able to get is what I'm letting you know, and that's because the drinking water program and the DEP are sick of people getting money and not building anything. So they're trying to do these shovel-ready things where they're only giving you enough basically for the design.
Right.
And then, I know it seems self-serving, I'm not trying to seem that way at all. It's
No,
trying to
it
be
doesn't.
open and honest.
No, it seems like you're giving us information so we can make a
Decide
decision.
what you
Yeah,
wanna do.
yeah.
How long would the design for that roughly take
I
for the
mean,
Main Street project?
for just the water line itself, I
Right.
mean, we could probably have that done, I would think, by the end of this year.
Which would then give you roughly 2 years before.
We'll find.
And you'll really just wait to line it up, so they work in conjunction with each other.
Yeah, we'd have to, we wouldn't wanna be, doing anything new with the road and then coming in afterwards, so you
No.
wanna do.
No, that'd be really bad.
You also wouldn't wanna you're not gonna rip up all the road, do all the water, and then let it sit there for 2 more years either, so.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want
Yeah.
trench paving to be there, you know.
Right, we've had that scenario.
And I mean, I think the kind of, the way I'm hearing it is. It's inevitably gonna have to be replaced one way or another, if there's a VPI or not. It's old cast iron water line that, you know, to have it designed means that. When that day comes that it's gotta be replaced, it's gonna be a lot smoother and in all in the meantime, all the funding application is gonna be stronger because we have it designed and we have some of the construction money ready to go. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, these lines aren't gonna get any better, you can get free money, I mean, that's a plus. I thought it would impact the rates a lot more than.
I think we wanna do a little bit of analysis of that before, we,
Right.
before we say what it is publicly, in a different, because I just wanna make sure the numbers are right, but I mean, you do the math, that's,
What close, right? You got us in the ballpark.
it's in the ballpark.
Yeah, that's a blind average to everybody, right? You're gonna have.
It's just there's a lot of users here, and then what helps is there's some big users, so that helps soften some of the numbers too, when we do rate increases on the water side.
Right, yeah.
So we can do the design and keep it on the shelf until whenever, right?
That part,
And we'll just keep looking for money. I mean. Our success is pretty good, I can't guarantee it, but it's been pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, most projects go ahead eventually.
any,
So the political climate, what's gonna happen to these types of situations in the future?
Yes, you should know that, right?
I mean, I've seen bad things happen to some projects, but most of the infrastructure projects have not been slaughtered. Because most of them are no matter what side you're on in this world, everybody understands infrastructure has been totally neglected. Because it's under the ground, it's not exciting, it doesn't excite anybody, except for maybe Travis and I. Maybe we've moved on a little bit, but I mean, it's,
Pretty exciting.
we get pretty excited about pipes and sewage and stuff like that. I'm not sure what's wrong with us, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's a really good question, because I know there's been some projects that have been lost, and I know that what, you were talking about money that's out there and everything, that you can just grab it, well, that money's going back to the drinking water program and the clean water SRF program, the money that got canceled last year from the CDS funds that didn't move forward. Several communities did lose their grant money, but that money is going to the agencies that run the SRF program. So there's a lot of money out there right now, but to be able to get it, is hard. All grant is the problem. So, I don't know what else to say about it.
I feel like we're strung up a little bit, honestly. It's like we're in such a bad situation, sewer, water wise. I mean, to go through a situation where you're gonna fix a road and not do it,
Seems good.
boy.
Well,
So there's so much work that has to be done, so where do you?
I mean, especially when you're talking about roads that are, or water lines that are leaking, have leaked,
Well,
or,
that's
you
kind of why
know,
I'm thinking like, all right, you can
They're in.
move forward, get the design, keep it on the shelf, say we don't get the funding, okay. Then we do get the funding, we can proceed.
any other thoughts?
Because we're not tearing up that VPI road. Gonna be gorgeous.
Else, any, questions, comments from the audience? Some of you are, water and sewer users. Any questions, comments?
We've still got some of the lowest rates in the state.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yep. Yep, that's a fair point.
And tearing these roads up in the middle of winter gets expensive.
Yep, we've seen that too.
And very aggravating, depending on where you stand.
Yeah. Yep. All right, any, questions, comments?
What does Jack think?
I think this is, just sounds like all work that needs to be done and has actually been, you know, planned for, and I think it's great that we have offers in front of us to, you know, consider, you know, and so I think it all has to kind of fit together, but I think this is an important step to do it.
Yep.
I just keep hearing big Floyd over and over and over in my head. Money.
Yeah.
Here's the sound.
You heard Ron.
Just ring.
You heard Ron,
I-
that's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay. But this is like no commitment,
well,
I mean, not huge commitment.
there's two, yeah.
I'll go back to my conversation on the fund balance, and I understand it. But it's not money that's replenished unless you don't follow through on projects that we plan, right? That's the only time that
Right.
these funds ever get replenished, so when we pull from it. We're not, I mean, minus the, what do we get, what do you say, 1.25% interest on the money sitting there, minus 1%. We're really not ever replenishing that money, so we do put ourselves in a position where when that emergency happens, we're in trouble. And I just, it sounds great to pull from that well, but every dollar we pull out of a citizen in this town is just another point of aggravation. And it's another roadblock to bringing people to this community. I agree that water rates are low. I understand we gotta do it. It's one of those things. To your point, we're gotta do your head, what are you gonna do? Gotta do it, right? So, but it's still, it brings into perspective, and I guess I'm kind of setting the stage for conversations later tonight, right? Because if we're asking for money out of our pockets here, where do we stop asking for money, right? And at some point, we have to go, I'm giving you enough, that's it.
Right.
And we're not giving anymore, and I don't know, the line's gotta be drawn somewhere, so where is it? And, I would say if we're not a mile and a half past that line, we're getting really close to it, right? A mill rate in this town of $24 is ridiculous. I don't care how low our water rates are, we are costing our citizens an enormous amount of money. And they might not be sitting there now, but we all know, right, look at here, that's artificial, that's not where they actually are. That's some accounting things that need to be adjusted, and we're gonna see those numbers climb back, and it just. This is concerning to me.
Right.
$80 seems like nothing. Right?
No, it does not seem like nothing, but
But
I don't know what the alternative is.
I know,
either,
and
right?
I agree with everything you're saying, and then my next thought is, what happens if we wait? What happens then? What happens if it gets worse? You know,
Oh,
so
it's
that's
going
the,
to get worse.
it's going to get worse,
These
so
pipes don't fix
that's
themselves.
the risk,
I see people on Honeywell Avenue.
it's the risk.
And Lower Main Street, and the sewer backs up in their yard, I mean, or in their
Right.
basements, I get it.
So then we're having an emergency and we need big funds because we're trying to fix something that broke.
Right,
Oh,
Do we wanna
100%.
get there? No. How do we not get there? Maybe this.
I mean,
I guess,
we're in this position because we didn't touch rates for 10, 12 years. And so nothing built up, nothing, we're
I'm
at like,
tempted to say
we're at
no
the,
too, and I think I'll
we're at the
regret it.
critical stage, like, I don't see how you can.
I'm a water user. I'm gonna, more than likely, if we bring this up and we go to vote tonight, I will probably vote yes. Cause the stuff needs to get done, right?
Yeah, you know,
But, you know, I just, at some point, we gotta stop.
Me too.
At some point, we gotta stop.
right. But, I mean, this money does accomplish two jobs, actually accomplish two jobs,
100%.
which is
Best case scenario,
Better.
really.
I mean,
better than what we typically can do.
if
around
you
here,
just look
so-
at the forgiveness, how much technical free money are we getting out of this, right?
$600,000.
200, 375.
$600,000.
Yeah, it's 550,000 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, it's worth it.
Yeah, it's 500.
I want to vote no as well, but I feel like I can't. I don't think that's the reason.
Yeah, I know, roughly 500.
I just,
I hear you, like loud and clear though. I'm with you on.
Right. We,
600 grand.
600,
690,
690, perfect. I mean,
that's a lot.
that's not real money. That's real money, right?
right. The rates don't go up higher if you don't take that money. And then we have to turn around and do it again anyway. Or you have to rip up the road we just put down when, and
And you really.
then you're really gonna pay.
Well, if I had a guarantee of a 30% or 25% return on all my money. We'd all take that risk every day, right? I mean, I see that, and that's exactly what we're getting here. So
Right.
it makes sense. But,
And I mean, we're trying to do this systematically too, like. We're gonna do this work and then we're gonna pave and like, we're not gonna have beat up roads and. Or good roads and crappy lines underneath. Kind of learning from past mistakes and. Yeah, all right. Think we're ready to vote. And we'll go one by
now
one.
we gotta go back and do it to approve, right?
Uh,
The approval is open on 2544, because that's how I did it, I didn't amend 2544,
Right.
so you can vote on that one right now.
right, all those in favor of resolution 2544, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2544 passes. Craig, do you wanna,
So I'll amend my motion.
I guess,
That's what I do, I'd amend the motion to, instead of open for discussion, I'd amend it to approve.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, so I'd like to amend my motion, resolution 2545 to approve. Resolution 2545.
I'll second it.
moved and seconded, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2545, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2545 passes.
I will amend my motion, I make a motion that we adopt resolution 2546.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor of resolution 2546, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2546 passes. And that concludes the resolutions for tonight. We will move on to budget review. And we are talking about water and sewer. I guess water. Expense. Water revenue, sewer expense and sewer revenue. Any way you'd like to do that?
Just completely changed,
What's that?
just completely changed.
Well,
Oh,
This wouldn't hit this budget, right, because
No.
we're going to be doing a rate
This,
increase
this
for
will
this
not
budget.
touch.
This
Yeah.
won't touch this budget.
No, will not touch this budget.
I was like, come on,
That would
go ahead and take-
yeah.
throw this right out.
That would be,
reputation,
That could be.
no, that would not be.
she
that-
wouldn't
Didn't
do
think
that.
you could handle that, Craig.
I don't think I'll do that.
I'd have been a puddle on the floor if you'd have told me that was happening.
I don't think I can handle it.
I'd have melted right down right there. What happened?
Yeah. Water expense.
So, just the last few pages of the book, would be, water, sewer expense.
Do you want me to say anything, Jack, or did you want to start? I wasn't sure how you want to go about it.
Look for the right thing here.
Yeah, me too, it says page 1, but where?
That's a ways back.
Five.
The
Gotcha.
very last section.
Okay.
This is.
Starts at 7005, you can.
Okay.
7005, there we go.
7005.
All right, talking about water expenses. Does anybody have any questions for Annalise on the expense side of water?
And the budget's less than it was in 2024, and the revenue's sufficient, just to kind of summarize.
The.
And I can go through anything, I just wasn't sure if you wanted me to go through in detail.
Trying to remind myself, nothing jumped out at me.
We did, just the chemicals, obviously chemicals have been high, but, we lowered it. You know, it's kind of hard to tell from the half-year budget, but if you go back to 2024, it's the same line as that, it's one of the higher lines.
What was that?
Chemicals, which is, under supplies,
10:30.
1030.
Page 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
10-30.
All right,
We also, under materials and supplies, 10-55, we spend quite a bit there, you know, fixing, curb stops and different things like that out in the distribution system, so that adds up. That ends up, you know, being a pretty large number. Our actual in 2024, I'm going back to that, because it's a full year, was about 24,700, so it shows that we do spend it.
does that make, just repair the. Do you know like where we're at overall with repairing of the curb stop? Percentage of the
I don't
system
have a
or?
percentage for you, but we're certainly moving along.
Yeah, bringing on the third person, we've been definitely busy, been very busy, but any of our downtime, we've gone out and we've operated, as we've started a program where we're operating curb stops to find, locate, take swing ties, finish up that to know exactly where all of these are. And we did a stretch last year where we probably dug, I would say at least a half dozen curb stops within a month and a half period, just operating them and getting them up to snuff and you know, in conjunction with the billing reclamation project that we worked on last year.
Okay,
I have a question, looking at spend, 2505,
That was my question.
right, so spend in 23 and 24
yeah, I see that.
versus budgeted, now I'll be honest with you.
Contracts and rentals, excavator rentals, for digs, that's 16,000, is that what you're questioning, why 24?
Yeah.
Yeah, and 23.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember that seemed like that was, there was something that, I don't know if that's because we were paying, Public Works. to be gone.
Yeah. I turned around
Yeah.
and looked at her.
I'm wondering,
We know they weren't.
The funds were not being
well.
transferred, we know that,
No, it's
Okay.
because, it's because Public Works is renting the excavator.
right?
But they didn't, I mean,
We were renting an excavator and using it, and we got one over there, but it's too big.
Right,
but if they were,
I mean,
I'm just saying, I think
if they were paying anybody,
Excavator
it
rental.
who corrected the rental.
would
I
have
don't
been.
have the backup to the older budgets in front of me here.
Is there a revenue for public works? Oh.
Well,
No, there's no payment to Public Works, so this is probably just whatever the rental bill,
Could very well be,
Yeah.
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 well, that was gonna be my next thing, that needs to be based on our discussion.
Right,
there
that's
should
right.
be a, revenue line on Public Works.
If
To
they were,
offset this,
yeah, if they were renting from public works.
and we should. We absolutely should.
Yeah, since then, it hasn't been those numbers, but I mean, I guess we could go back and look at what happened those 2 years and see, maybe there was just something else that was done in charge for that line. I just don't recall.
It looks like it almost have gone underwater, because there's nothing for equipment rental in your sewer. I'll just take a look quickly. I know we're not there yet, but I was just taking a picture.
I guess I can't answer what happened those 2 years, but we can look into it and try to
It's,
figure it out.
yeah, it's less about what happened those 2 years, and are we happy with budgeting only 3,000 this year? If we, if our historical is an average of 17,500 or 18,000, we probably should be looking to budget that way and understand that that's. I mean, you're still close to a net looking at your revenue and your expense line, even if you increase that.
Right,
I
and
mean, you're 6,000 net positive right now in revenue.
One thing we can look into is, I know that Public Works had some rental costs in this current year. If they were renting to dig for utility, that's gonna show up in Public Works, there isn't. So there could be that if you had excavator rentals, and Public Works running them and dug, it's showing up over there.
maybe it's not showing up in our budget, I don't know that, I mean, I don't know where that happens.
We can.
I mean,
sort that out.
Yeah, public works should never,
Right, but are we subsidizing water and sewer with public works?
Well, that's what these are
That's the
actual.
question,
Maybe.
if we're only
That's a problem.
looking at.
that's a big problem.
Well, this leads into that question that what we were talking about 2 weeks ago,
Right.
which is, if we're going to have an excavator in this town. Why would we not rent it to these enterprise funds
Right,
Exactly.
at $600 a day, whatever it would be, pay ourselves?
mm-hmm, 100%,
Shouldn't be a ratepayer, it shouldn't be a tax burden, it should be
right,
water and sewer burden.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And we see the actuals, I mean, the spend is there, right? So 21,000, 16,000. So the spend is there, because these are actuals, not budgetary ones, these are actuals.
Yeah.
I guess we'll look into what happened there and see, make sure that that's sufficient. I just don't have the backup documents to see what these charges were, I don't remember.
At one point in time, and that predates, I believe, Oliver being here, but there was an excavator purchased with. And this is what I'm remembering, but half water, money, and.
The one you got right now, the big one, with half and half, or a
Half,
third and a third.
It was the backhoe. The water department bought the backhoe, half the backhoe and the highway bought. That's it.
I thought it was a third for each one of them.
But I
Backhoe
don't,
they use.
but I don't know that
I
it
don't
was
know that was in there.
operational.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think it was operational for a period of time.
Who paid for the backhoe, the excavator you had today for the day? Who was that building?
Which one?
It was small enough on 4th Street, there, the corner of 4th Street. there.
That was a homeowner, service, but, Snowman's, I was up on the project on Arbor today. And we hired Snowman's to do that, and that's getting charged to obviously sewer. Because it was a sewer project.
General idea, what are you paying for that per day?
We worked with Jack on that, and I believe that was in the neighborhood of 32, 31.
But that's the machine and the install, that's basically the manhole, right?
That was 2-3 men and their equipment. We went out as the sewer utility and purchased the manhole ourselves to not pay a markup.
Okay,
Which is pretty
So-
reasonable.
yeah, so for an operator and 2 men, you're 2,500 a day. To 3,000
With a machine?
with a machine. I'm hearing that Pink Floyd playing the other way, right? I'm hearing revenue lines
Right.
to Public Works. Yeah, I'm helping you for once, Don.
It's too bad you stepped out. Is this being recorded?
Yes. It's right there.
So if that 3,000 should be higher than what we, and if we were going to rent from Public Works, and we could just show a revenue on the Public Works side. And so that would actually wash out if that 3 and then 1 to 10, then it'd just be 10 on the Public Works side, if that's how the route we were gonna have. So,
I mean, if you're budgeting 3 for 12 months and we just spent 3 in one day. I mean, that gets eaten up.
To be fair, that was sewer, but
Understood,
yeah.
but but when I look, and I know we're not there yet, but I looked ahead at sewer and there's no rental line.
Yeah.
There's no rental line, so it's.
Yeah, we would have done that, it never came out of capital, right? That manhole replacement didn't come out of rental,
Yeah, it comes out of
hire a
capital.
contractor, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, so the real issue over around number.
but regardless, we still hit a revenue line.
Yeah.
Towards our. Everything here is to try to offset, right, to find the offsets.
No, I think we agree that the Public Works, if they're doing work for sewer or water, whatever, that we should be paying that. I mean, I just don't know how that was reflected behind the
Yeah.
scenes, yeah.
I guess this conversation is more to justify the purchase of that excavator or the trade or whatever that they're looking at, right? Cause they have a line item there.
Okay,
If we're gonna justify that, it's best to justify that with a revenue stream.
Mhm.
It's also
Right, to offset
hourly
that.
rate for people that are doing the work.
Kind of blurring some lines here, but it's part of our discussion, right, is to find how we do this thing.
it'd be cheaper than a contractor,
Right.
typically.
Yeah. But. Yeah, the taxpayers wouldn't be paying
Right.
to do anything for the water and sewer.
most of the time it's.
Unless
by
it's
the
a
utility.
fire hydrant, I guess. Maybe they would.
Here's how you offset that 184.
184,000. Down at my house.
Right, absolutely. Nice. I'm seeing how that works now, right?
All right, so I guess.
Federal government, I'm here to help.
I own 2 properties out on Pete's Corner. You spoke that earlier. I understand.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
Okay, do we wanna move on and come back to that, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay. I guess, 2550 is, utility contract ops, and if, the 2025 budget, we went up, 5,000 from that, just for the 3 full-time people in Travis's time. I don't charge a lot of time to the ops, but it includes a little bit of my time during budget time and stuff like that. Just to be clear on that. Heating, we left it all the same, we haven't been expending that full budget. And then the debt service is all the current, lines that we have already. Nothing new is included in there because it's not hitting the budget.
let's see here,
3505.
yeah, 3505, you've always had. You had. 7,900 in 2024, but didn't charge anything. 3950 in the half year of 25 budget and didn't charge anything. That's for your insurance policy?
Yeah, we need to, actually ask the, agent to kind of review all of the insured properties and the different categories, town, water and sewer. And so we get the proration right, so make sure that it really is the 79 and then charge it.
So that bill of 24 is probably still coming then. It's just gonna hit in 25 as a.
We can still, I think we can still let that hit. We're still, dealing with things back in the old year. We can deal with that.
If not, I'm just on over down to 25, half year budget, right?
Yeah.
Worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to keep that in.
So debt service, some of that other stuff.
Yeah, so none of the new items that we talked about, except there is the truck. If you go to page 4. At the top of the page, there is the truck. That has been discussed, the 3/4 ton truck.
Yeah.
One that's gonna be undercoated.
Is it already done?
Not
Oh,
yet,
that's
not yet.
right.
It's not yet.
Going back on one.
Yeah,
45, 60.
Travis, I like you're on it. So
yeah,
were
those,
you talking about the other ones, Greg?
yeah,
45, 65, bottom line on page 3.
Yeah,
So there's the expenses.
same thing with 4550.
Yeah,
same thing with like that
So-
entire debt service line.
Must be.
We must have
because you would see a year where it jumps and doubles and then,
It's,
Yeah,
Is
it's,
it just an allocation thing? or-
I think I don't understand why it's like that, but there is debt service for Waverly still. So we put in there what the payment is. I don't, from the actual amorts, because Jack sent them to me. So I saw those numbers, so I think maybe the amount wasn't coded back to the account. I'm not really sure, or if they
So-
just put the interest there and not.
Yeah, I don't get-
it's getting paid out of another line item.
yeah, so I think it took me a while to do this part of the budget. I'll tell you that. It took me.
Forever.
And so I just went to the bond bank, USDA, and some of the other lenders and just asked for all the amortization schedules.
Yeah.
And then just took it from the amortization schedules to here. And I just kind of did it from scratch. And so I do think there may have been some codes that were combined, so 2 might have been coded to the same line. It wasn't, but all I can tell you is the way I laid it out is the way I read the amortization schedules that I got.
This is what is due in
Yeah,
that
that's
period.
what's due and when.
Yeah.
But did
And
we,
we have not defaulted on
I was gonna say,
them,
did
so the
we?
money's been spent from somewhere.
So where is the money coming from to pay those?
Yeah, we need right. Right here, 4530, no, sorry, 4550. You budgeted 50 grand, you only spent 8. Right here, you budgeted 40 grand, you didn't spend any. Right here, you budgeted 27,264, you spent 3.
Yeah, so I,
Like some of these things just don't,
so yeah, I don't know.
which is before you,
Yeah.
but the,
But the point is that if you pay the bill, you pull it out of the account somewhere,
right,
but it's not that account. So where did that money come from to pay that bill?
Where'd it go?
Probably
Yeah,
Tina
where it
would
come
be able to.
from?
Well, see, I don't
We
know,
show-
I have to
so
go back to
4561, I don't know what that bill is. And if there was a budget number for a debt service payment that we didn't actually know, then that goes to your point you made a little while ago about how does fund balance get replenished, because if you have things you just didn't spend. You know, but
So what you're saying, we don't actually owe this?
I'm saying that
No, we-
for
These are
this one, I didn't tie any particular bond to it, it was. It might have been one that was expected
Sure.
to be borrowed. So in 2023, when you're looking ahead to the 2024, you might expect that you're gonna have a payment hit. But then the timing of things, it doesn't hit. So to me, that was thought it was gonna be owed and it wasn't owed. But all I can say as far as these go is. I just went to every single lender that we had, loans with that asked for the schedules and.
but do these previous dollar amounts make sense?
What I think part of it is they used to put just like interest in here, not the principal. So it's an accounting thing. I think it's somewhere in the budget, but what Jack did was take the principal and interest and add it together. And that's what I saw he did, and I checked these numbers, and those are what the water department owes. And their payments, we still.
So you know that they're due, did those, reports that you got indicate when they would be due? Do you know that now?
Yeah, I know that now.
Yeah, good, so going forward, I think it's gonna be hard to figure out the historical, but I think going forward, we can feel safe.
But some of
I
these,
think Amanda can tell us left, right? That's a question that he might,
what's that?
Ron's gonna have to get back to us on, right, for part of the audit, because he's gonna have to chase down where that money came from.
Well, all the money that we're looking at here just came from the budget, and the question would be is if we didn't spend out of a certain line. Then either we never ended up owing for that year, out of that line, or we just coded the bill to a different line.
Right.
And there was some of that, there was some where. There may have been a $3,000 or $4,000 interest payment. Because sometimes we have just an interest only payment, which would be really small, and then in the spring and then in the fall, there might be an interest in principal. So we'll say the smaller one might have got coded to a line. So I try to just say, whatever happened, happened, but here's what the schedules are telling me. And that's why I put these notes on here is Main Bond Bank, 2016 paid off in 2036, because I was reading that right off the schedule.
No, I guess to my point, there should be,
But if it does,
there's a
yeah,
kitty somewhere,
Right.
right? Because if the expense is never drawn from this. Then I'm looking at 3 years worth of 40,000 times 4 lines. That's $450,000 has to be sitting somewhere.
Maybe padding the
They
general
did,
fund.
because this.
well,
doesn't
it
go into
wouldn't,
general fund,
it wouldn't be our general fund.
It's a separate.
It'd be
one.
their general,
Water.
It'd be a
it'd be
separate
water and sewer
enterprise
general
fund.
fund,
Right.
if it was done properly.
If we missed a payment, they would definitely reach out to us.
Mhm.
But we
But
don't,
I'd be worried that that payment came out of
That's why.
Taxpayer money versus water and sewer money.
well, that's what I'm, because the only line that's over on expenses is
I
the
didn't see
rental.
that. I didn't see.
All the way
anything with that.
for how long, but I mean, for the last 3-4 years or the last 6 months.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, anything
You know what I
was
mean?
looking at- Yeah, anything I was looking at, I didn't see that, I'm not saying it couldn't happen.
Well, the only
Well,
line.
you
I
look
was-
back to 2022, right? More or less, well, maybe.
I was definitely looking at the 2024 detail, and I might have gone back to 2023,
Okay.
but I remember seeing lines within the right budgets. But not into the wrong fund. Don't remember any of that.
I mean, you can go back to all the payments that have been made to all these.
Yep.
And see where those payments came from, right?
Yeah.
And if they came out of, say, public works instead of water and sewer, you would be able to tell that.
On that, you mean?
Cause there's no line in the water budget that's off. From budget other than expenses, other than rental. There's no other line that's over by. I mean, so if you look at complete debt service, right? 7005, which is the roll up of all of that, correct? The next page, top of the next page.
Which is up 70.
So your budget, 2024 budget, 166, actual 56. So that's $110,000. Actual in 23, only 18,000. Actual in 22, 67,000. And by the looks of us budgeting that in the 2025 budget, this is the first 6 months payment. This payment must come out in the first 6 months, I'm assuming. So
Yeah, all those payments are probably due in the first half of the
the
year.
first half of the year, yep.
Right,
So-
which is why it doesn't increase from 127 to, it only increases. a couple
Exactly,
grand.
but so I'm seeing just. I mean, the 166,021,
That's because of that 40,000.
the 40,000,
Yeah,
so
he said,
120,
that was exactly what Jack was saying was a planned payment that didn't happen.
right,
For the rest of them, I think is because of just a practice of where that money's recorded, but like she's right, if they didn't pay the bond bank, they definitely get, a late fee.
right, so 4185 has been consistent since 2007. 4920 has been consistent since 2016. 3790 has been consistent since 09. I'm sorry, the first one was since 11. And then this 2685 has been there since 11. So that 126,000 has been consistent across, yet we see a 22 spend of half of that. 23 is 100,000 short of the spend. 24 is 70,000 short of the spend.
I bet what's happening is some of the 2024 is being paid in 2025. And each time you get an invoice, it's guarantee it's not for the total amount due,
But
they
it-
come in pieces.
But if you saw that, you would see 22 being low and 23 being double. 24 being low, 25 being double. I mean, if it's a timing thing, you're always gonna catch up at some point.
Right.
If it's not being paid out of the proper budget, then this is what you see, where consistently year over year, it's. The expense line isn't being hit.
So I would say that if we looked at, the 2011 Z bond and, what that was coded to in 2023, because it's a $41,000 budget with a $1,946 actual. Then if we looked at the next one, the, 2016, FR 2016.
4550.
Yeah, 4550, if we looked at, what that was charged to in 2024, that would pretty much shine the spotlight on why that's on. You see where those were charged to, because, we know the payments were
It's the
there.
difference right there.
We know the payments were there,
Yeah, 'cause
we know they were paid.
looking at sewer, it's like sewer.
Like, were they all, were chunks really late? Maybe that's kind of what it looks like.
But even late, you would see it on the following year, and sewer, it's not coming out sewer because sewer is under. Also. 22 is at 54, 23 is at 42, 2024 is the closest
Yeah.
at 105.
Yeah, we're
They
not,
do it.
huh?
Figure out what- if they can-
This is
they
gonna
can-
impact a later, this doesn't impact this budget, it impacts a later budget. It's
Right,
gonna impact them.
right.
Let's skip. I'm good with moving on. We wanna move to,
Whatever you
please.
want.
Get some more information.
I think we're
For
kind
the
of,
water and sewer, you're gonna have to get.
We don't know what we're
information on
trying to
this.
figure out.
so we just go to police department, fire department, do the water and sewer. Another time, Craig, or,
Good to go,
Yeah.
it's just a lot of money.
well, I think it's a lot, we don't have enough information. You know,
We're making
trying to-
assumptions.
There's something you got, yeah, it's something.
There's
you guys
definitely
have to
something
dig
wrong,
into.
but I don't think we have enough here to say.
I don't think it's
exactly how
wrong, I just don't think we're able to explain it in a way that we all feel comfortable with right now.
All right.
We know we need to spend it, we know it's an expense that has to be budgeted for,
Yeah.
Right,
and this year we need to pay it out of this.
And the concern is, where is it being paid at?
But this year we know we need it, and needs to come out of this GL code, period, right?
right.
Okay. So I get you, we can move forward.
But that understanding where we're charged to this year. Like understanding where we went wrong, I think is the value of the whole.
Well, that's gonna impact later budgets, right?
Right.
Later conversations.
Yep.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So you're good with us?
I think so.
On the water side.
Unless you wanna go through.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
We're spinning our
Sewer,
wheels.
sewer's the same thing, right? It's
Yeah.
pretty much just that one debt service line and. Why is there no rental line for equipment rental on sewer?
I think we're probably charging some of the cost of capital, we were just talking about it, because we usually do some of those as capital projects, so maybe they're sitting in that line. But I think we could, yeah, sewer, I mean. But wait, you can talk about that.
You're talking about
So,
line
I
6
guess-
actually.
Two takeaways for them, right, would be. I think we need to increase the rental line, because obviously historical tells us that. We're gonna spend more than what we're budgeting, 3,000 on the water side.
But I think we've been charging some of that under the capital project, which is 60-70 on the water, which is a $20,000 line, just to be clear. And that in the past was less, it's actual spending, like 12,000, 11,000. So I mean, obviously this year there wasn't much there, but so I think it's a matter of where things are charged as well, just to be clear. But we'll look at that and come back.
I guess, I mean, if the part, in my, capital should be the part goes to the capital, right? So
Yeah.
the
Rental
manhole,
would be- Yeah.
the manhole goes to
Yeah.
capital, the rental of the equipment goes to
That
the
was under
equipment rental
rental.
line.
No, I'm.
Cause that's where you blur your,
Yeah.
Cause your work doesn't have value beyond the year that you do it. The piece that you install is what your capital expense, and that's what has your value and your
Yeah.
value.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see whether we get
Yeah.
charged for that, maybe
Yeah.
or not, I don't know.
Yeah, that-
Okay,
that's my two pieces.
all right, do you need us for anything later, or because we have not a lot in capital? We're willing to sit, obviously, just wanna make sure we're not gonna sit here if you don't need us. We'll stay.
I'm not so sure we'll get to capital tonight anyway. At this point, I don't know. We'll see how these next three things go. Yeah. Guess we're good on those.
Yeah, we're good, thank you.
Okay, I'll make sure, right,
Is there anything on capital that they need to-
inspire an animal.
Not a lot,
for them? I don't have anything to do.
What's that? What do you want?
I was looking at the capital, if there was anything for water and sewer.
I didn't see anything on there.
not really.
They're way out there.
Okay, oh, yeah.
Other
The
than
only-
what we talked about earlier.
Truck and that. Trucks are gonna.
So we already talked about that.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, yeah, we're good. Thank you, guys, appreciate,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Have a good night.
Have a good evening.
All right, moving on. Police department, page 14. Actually, I'm gonna throw a curveball at you.
Was expecting it.
Can we do fire department, cause that's usually a lot quicker.
Everybody loves a fireman.
They just love you pretty well, but look at your budget.
Oh, come on, come on. None of that, none of that.
No, that's perfect.
Okay,
I would say work harder, but I can't say that.
okay, all right. I bumped you up, Bernard. Let's see. Fire department. Page 16, lower half of page 16. Sorry, Vinny, I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Let's see. Does anybody have questions for Bernard? Dave's pretty consistent,
Yeah,
which is kind of nice.
yeah.
I will say. PPE, you haven't spent anything as of when this was printed, which was like mid-March. So if you have PPE. You have $3,500 in there to
That won't buy us a PPE today.
pants, coat, boots, helmet, hood.
Pants and coat's gone up to about $3,800 because of some of this goings on right now. Boots are over $300. Unreal what they give for this stuff,
Do you,
but we will buy probably one set of pants and coat. Our boots are in really good shape right now. We've got a couple of spare pairs, so. I have one guy that I'm probably gonna have to buy a new set of turnouts for, which will rob enough on one of the other ones to buy it. Unless I can beat a vendor
okay,
down.
I see your PPE for 2026 is $4,000. Is there an issue with that, or?
Hopefully, what our hope is we've tried to buy a set every year, at least one. And so everybody has two sets. So they come back and they're all wrapped up, they can be laundered and, because that's the new regulations, when you've been in the smoke, you're supposed to launder them. And it takes forever for the liners to dry. The outside dry in 20 minutes, but
Sure.
that inside with that vapor barrier works well, it doesn't let the vapor out. So we're working on two sets per person and we're in pretty good shape for that.
And you do have 3,500 in a 6-month budget.
Right,
For PPE.
I say we'll get one set. I got
Okay,
a guy that's put on some weight, so.
yeah, you can join the crowd. Yes.
The problem is when they can't zip the pants up, it don't work very well.
No, I know that. I don't know, You guys have questions? Anybody?
No,
I
nothing.
mean, there's not a ton jumping out.
It
off the page.
seems to stay pretty consistent.
Contracts and, oh, what do you contract and rent? What are contracts and rentals? Just out of my curiosity.
Pump testing,
Okay,
our, big compressor has to be serviced and air tested yearly.
okay,
The SCBA's have to be flow tested yearly.
yep, all right. That works.
Hose and ladder testing has to be done yearly.
Yep. All right,
Where are we sitting for personnel? Are we in a good position?
No. We're just like everybody else around here, we don't have any.
What are we, what should we have in a perfect world? How many would you have?
We have 4 6-man companies. We have about just a little over half of that right now.
so you'd have 24, you got 12.
We had 24 plus the slate of top officers.
I will mention here, it's a good segue, I guess, that when we were first putting this budget together, Bernard was talking about the need for day coverage because people work and it's, and we don't always have, adequate day coverage, and that they're looking ahead. If not now, perhaps soon, the day coverage conversation would be focused around full-time presence in the station during the day. And so we're not moving forward with that, but you'd either accomplish that with a couple of full-time employees, or you could do per diems to cover 40 hours a week times, 2 people, if that's the right number. But that's kind of a conversation as far as, how many people do you have overall, but then where does that coverage fall in the course of a 24-hour, 7-day week? Do you have coverage in all the times you need coverage? And
Several of the smaller towns in Somerset County have done that. Norwich Walk went to it 2 years ago. And they now have 4 people on, I believe, a shift, for a day shift. Anson had to go to it, they just didn't have anybody, they had to put 2 people on. Starks was looking at putting 2 people on as small as they are, just because there's nobody there in the daytime.
We gotta work to pay the tax bill.
Hmm?
So people gotta work to pay their tax bill.
All right, so that's. Consider going forward or. Yes.
How many do we have respond per call? I mean, and you got 12 or 13 on, how many are actually responding? How many are active?
Depends on the type of call.
Okay.
If we get called to go help the ambulance, we only get 3 or 4, because several of the guys don't want anything to do with that.
Got it.
If we get a fire call, right now, we probably have 6 or 7.
Okay.
All right,
Maybe one of them, 2.
Huh?
Done.
no, he's Detroit, right?
I'm in Pittsfield too, but I can't be
Oh.
5 places at once.
Sure you can.
Oh.
You have a Pittsfield too, though, don't you?
Then clone a wolf, then clone you down.
Younger than me, please, way younger.
All right. Any other questions or comments for the fire department? Appreciate, you keeping the fire department budget in line, that's always helpful. And, appreciate everything you guys do, so. Yes, if we're all set, we will move on to police department. Thank you, Bernard, and,
Are you going to do capital tonight or not?
let's. Think we're gonna be doing
Dinner coming
no, hotel.
Then no.
Yeah, we'll probably. You guys wanna put that in the May 6th meeting?
we don't have a budget agenda for May 6th, so we would have
in?
potentially room to fit some of these on next week.
Is next week May 6th?
Oh, yeah, that's May 6th. Yeah, you won't be here?
No, I'll be here.
I will.
I can't join.
Will you be here? Yeah, you're not sure.
Oh, the girls have a softball game. At home though, so yeah, I'll be here.
You want to push through and do all that tonight, or what are we doing? Not so much. Yeah.
Go to 13.
That's an off week, but. Well,
Budget
I
season.
can do the 13th. The
Yeah.
girls have a home game.
To answer your question, Bernard, no, we're not gonna do capital tonight. So if you wanna leave, you
By
can.
my bedtime.
If you wanna stick around, you can do that too.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, appreciate it. Oh, sorry about that. I guess that was the only reason you were here too. Sorry, guys. Oh, sorry, geez, Louise, yeah. Oh, boy,
Should have called that much sooner.
man, yeah.
Well, we did the masonry part, which.
Oh, yes, you had to be here for that, yeah, the masonry, right. Okay, fire department, no,
No.
police
Please,
department,
department.
sorry, it's been a long day.
Alright.
Working
I'll come to the
on,
podium.
He's tired, he's gonna go home. That's why he's yawning.
page 14. Police department name.
Are all positions filled?
No,
How many vacant?
I have one.
One, and that one is included in the 5, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually, when you look at it, it says vacant right now. And I'm kind of holding off, not that I don't have anybody that I can hire for that, I'm just kind of holding off on that position.
All right.
I don't have a problem hiring people.
Yeah, I've noticed.
So I had a question on the full-time and overtime.
Yes.
So if you're. And I've kind of asked this in the past to other departments too, but if you're assuming that you're gonna be fully staffed with the line item of personnel. Full-time personnel, but you're also calculating full, like, high-end overtime. That never makes sense to me, I guess.
So this
Either
is,
you're fully staffed or you're not,
Yeah.
or you're.
yeah, so this is gonna be an odd year
and
for
that's the
us.
way the other.
Overtime is gonna be a little bit more, because we have one officer, which is Gabe. He lives here in town, he's brand new, and he has to go through the full-time academy. So that's 18 weeks of him not being able to be on a shift, and that's all gotta be backfilled, while he's gone. Not to mention the, training he's doing right now, which is also, he's on the road and, we have to fill it.
So you planned, how many weeks you're gonna be
Yeah,
coming now?
18 weeks.
Is there any possibility of filling that in a part-time role versus overtime, considering part-time expense would be 2/3 of. To move some of that money towards a part-time?
Yeah, we could do that. I'm actually right now cultivating a part-time officer that, I feel is gonna be competent to work on his own, during those times. We haven't had that luxury. We've kind of got away with it. Just got lucky, I guess. When you look at the training standards that is required today, they weren't there. And they were on the road. And it was very dangerous to liability for the town.
You have. What do you have, 5 reserve officers right now?
Yes.
According to our new town website.
Oh, I checked it out.
Uh,
I can't wait to.
Yeah,
So-
and
so-
some
so
of
would
those
they-
are, from Clinton. And the problem with the reserve officer of Clinton, they're very competent officers. They helped fill in the past. But they're actually making a pile more than what our officers are making here today. So in fact, the Clinton sergeant makes more than I do. So when you're asking them to do overtime, here basically at a much lower rate. I think their rate of pay is maybe $29 an hour.
top end here for our part-time. You know, for there, if they're working overtime, you know, let's say for the sergeant there, you know, that's $60 an hour. So where would you work?
Yeah.
You know, if you have to work overtime, where are you gonna work? So it's tough. Yeah, they're on our books and they help out. You know, when I need them, I'll call them up and say, hey, we got an event, you know, and they're happy to come help. So I kind of keep them in my pocket for emergencies. I don't want to get rid of them.
Okay,
Well, that's interesting that Clinton didn't pay me, that's
A
strange.
lot of town, you're gonna find, especially coming, negotiations coming up with the officers. Most of the towns around here pay a lot more. Actually, I just printed off one from Winslow PD and, they're starting. Salary or their hourly rate is starting at our top rate for our officers right now.
Why the difference? How are the salaries? Figured,
I have no idea. They've been low here. You know. and-
do like market analysis?
is there a-
or something?
Collective bargaining agreement and what's there?
Yes, it's all, they're CBAs,
Yeah, they're all
collective bargaining agreements. And I don't know why it's been slow here. And, I think that's why we've had trouble, hiring and retaining people in the past. You know, I think right now we're in a good place. We have I think we have some really good seasoned officers. I was able to get them in here from various areas. You know, I think only because, you know, we've had a good rapport and I helped provide with a good working environment for them. You know, that means something.
Who negotiates on our behalf? Is it you?
No, I don't. I sit, yeah, there's a board. And in fact, I want to say Heather is on it. I'm not sure who else volunteered for it this
I'm
year.
on.
Yeah, I sit on it just for information. I don't
So two
guide in any sort of way. I can, like, if the board asks for the surrounding pay
Yeah.
schedules, I can help get that.
Okay,
But, yeah, I'm just there to help answer questions for clarity if needed.
Yeah, just, I mean, looking at like the actual from 2024 to now. Like what we're budgeting for full-time, overtime and part-time. I mean, that's $70,000 increase.
Yeah, and like I said, this is abnormal year, cause. I can't remember,
I mean, the
when the
part,
last time we actually sent somebody to the academy for full 18-week training? Austin, so, and that was 5 years ago, I think it was. Yeah, so about 5 years ago, Austin was sent for the full boat. And, you know, and I'm pretty happy with hiring people in town. And, you know, they live here, they can respond quicker to calls. You know, it just kind of puts more police here 24/7, really. That's how I look at it. And you gotta invest into that.
right? What are we covering for shifts for? Like, I don't know, what are our shifts? 7 days a week, whatever.
Yeah, so I provided a
600.
copy to Jack on our shift schedule. They're based on 2-2-3 schedule. And. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, thanks.
So based on, and that's just a generic schedule, that's just some random month. Just kind of give you an idea of how they work and when they're covering and what they're covering. And they're 11s and 12s are their shifts. 11s during the week and weekends are 12s.
That's based on 4 officers.
Yep. That's not including that one I haven't filled yet. Which that had been our SRO position.
Does the sergeant take shifts as well? He must.
He does. He'll help fill in when he can. In fact, that's what he's doing right now. Cause we have a vacant day shift, cause I can't put Gabe into it because he's not ready yet.
Are you? Oh, I see. Night officers on call from 2 AM to 4 AM. Day officer is on call from 4 AM to 6 AM. He has 6 full-time officers, the schedule. Yeah, that makes. Good, you know, thing on. You have one vacant spot,
Yes.
so you're covering this schedule without that
Yes.
spot filled.
Right, like I said, that was the position that
Hmm.
I saw was kind of almost a utility position when I got here.
Hmm.
And that's what I filled in for the SRO. And again, this is the same footprint that the police chiefs had for years here.
Oh, I know,
This
yeah.
is the exact same, I think I made it to, it's useful now, you know, as opposed to just having people randomly. Now we have a useful group of guys and girls that are able to staff our roads and, you know, and take our calls. Again, it's nothing I added, and again, I'm in the same footprint that has always been here. Just using them better.
One thing we did was we, tried to account for, thing like the academy overtime. We broke that down, so it looks like 39,000 of the overtime is because we know we're sending someone to the academy. So that's, you know, and then we have like, a little bit for just the training, so where you're sending someone to training, overtime covering that. Like 3,000. So we tried to just kind of go through the scenarios that would cause overtime.
Mhm.
And from year to year, you have good luck, you have bad luck, right? Some years, you may not have anybody in the academy, you may not have a lot of, you know, call outs that are, you know, as many call outs or as many incidents that would drive it. You may have more part timers that will fill in. So it's almost like you have to be within a range.
Yeah,
You have to be able to hit within a high range or in some years you're gonna be lower and you'll benefit from that.
Right.
yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to,
Well, I got a question on is the overlap, the 2 hour overlap on the schedule, is that when you're seeing your highest call volume within those?
Well, that's when the day shift will come in and do the reports, because generally like to have them on the road, you know, out there fielding calls and, you know, like I said, when I got here, this was the place where everybody hung out and I didn't really like that, you know, get out there and be visible, be seen. So, but now they have that time when they can come in and just do their paperwork.
Okay,
And not have to worry about the radio going off and they gotta leave and go do that. And also that time is if they got to make an arrest that they can schedule. You know,
gotcha.
then they have those extra bodies to say, hey, look, we're gonna go arrest so-and-so, for whatever reason. And obviously it's a better scenario
I
to have.
imagine you also have like report out, I'm thinking like at work, we have to overlap in the hospital, because you need to take what is going on with me right now and keep going.
Yeah, we give a quick briefing, they do in a way they pass information, yeah.
People like to schedule.
I think they do. I think they do. I've worked at 223 before and, they're long days, but, you know, the trade-off is having the
Yeah.
time off,
Mhm.
so.
And, Amy, are you 5 days? You're Monday to Friday? You're 4?
I'm a little bit knowledge.
4 days, so Monday to Thursday,
She works 7 days, don't let her.
7 to 5:30? Is that what you're doing? Yeah.
I do think that on the part-time side of things, if you were to be able to build that roster, and even if we built your roster of part-timers through a higher pay rate, that pays for itself more than probably twice over in terms of the savings when we have to pay an overtime rate, which would be time and a half.
And that's something that have to be in the CBA too, because that's listed in there as well as part-time.
Part-time rate.
Plus you want your more alert officer too, right? Which is gonna be your fresh guy, which is your part-time guy versus a guy that's been on for 16 hours.
Makes me wonder though, how successful are you in recruiting part-time officers? Are they really interested in that?
Well, it's tough part-time. I mean, part-time, again, you're putting someone out on the road that has 300 hours of training. As opposed to someone that has 300 hours plus 18 weeks plus, you know, there's plus another 300 hours of on-the-job training.
What about like the retired state police guys that we had,
Oh, yeah.
Chris
Yeah.
and are those guys still on?
No, they're not on, no.
Do you
At
get,
some point, people don't want to be a cop anymore.
do
Which
you
I
get,
get.
do you get somebody that's full-time with one department that'll pick up shifts with us part-time? So they have all the.
Well, we had that with the Clinton guys.
right.
But again, they've been it just became an issue of, do I wanna work for less money? Or, you know, so, which is typical, because that's, when you get a full-time officer, there's plenty of overtime in just about any town. Have to come here to work for half their pay, at a part-time rate.
I mean, so you get,
Usually part-timers are the guys that would love to be officers, but for some reason they can't go to the full-time academy. You know, whether it's a medical issue or a child daycare issue, whatever. But, those are the ones you get, you don't get those ones that are full blueprints generally.
do you think it's practical or possible that we could operate with one less officer?
I think it's possible, yes.
I'm just curious, you know, 'cause, I mean, you look at the schedule, there's 4 officers, it covers everything, obviously, people take time off, get sick, go on, whatever. You backfill with reserves or part-time, or some guys pick up overtime.
I did have.
Cutting out
Yeah.
an entire position is obviously,
Yeah, since you brought it up, I did have a conversation with Jack about that, talking about that, what I call the utility position. That I turned into an SRO, and nobody wants to ever see, you know, we got an SRO, don't wanna get rid of an SRO. I have had conversations with, the schools about that, and, talking about a part-time position, putting a part-time person in there. That about maxes out, because if you're a part-time officer that has not been to the academy, you can only do so many hours a year. I think it's 1,029. And that's almost in line with how many hours in the school, for the year. Of course, not during summers or vacations, and we had talked about it, it'd have to be like a real part-time position, 32 hours a week. So.
So just to kind of zero in on the SRO, the SRO position is in the 553, 505. That's $66,000. Almost 66,000 even. But it's also on the revenue side of police, so we show a revenue of SRO reimbursement because that was paid for by the school. But, so what we would, and that would just net out, but what we would save is anything over and above that base 40 hours. Because whatever additional shifts that person would fill, the benefits on top of that position, that was on us. So if we didn't have an SRO and it was just a part-time position that the school paid for, we would be saving on the overhead, the benefits of that position, and would be saving on anything over and above the regular wage. But the base wage is a wash. Because it would come off the expense side and come off the revenue side.
And so the SRO is full-time in here, 40 hours a week?
Yep.
52 weeks, not the school schedule?
Not school schedule.
Okay, and is anyone in that role right now?
Nobody's in that. The last one was, Eric.
So I see Officer Rodriguez there sometimes in the morning, but that's.
Well, we fill in the morning, so I'll go sit with the kids coming off the bus, you know, as people are coming in. I walk through the schools as well as everybody else. So, I mean, we respond.
I'm passionate about the SRO position.
I think there's a lot of good that comes from an SRO, but I think there's ways to do it.
so that would be, if you were to do it the way you're proposing, you're just cutting out that. Whatever's over and above what the school's gonna pay for.
Right.
Would be what the department pays
What
for.
we'd have. And
Which is-
we would have to use our own part-time roster, right? Or would we find a new person?
I would have to I'd have to find someone for that position. I'd have to put it, I haven't put it out yet, to obviously need to have these conversations.
I mean,
But to fill it, you gotta get the right person,
Right.
you know, you gotta find somebody that really wants to work only during the school year and get paid only during the time they're working. Which there are people out there like that,
Mhm.
you know, I almost wrote this job for me, so I could do that, and, you know, have summers off and, you know, and school, you know,
Work
vacations
school
off.
hours?
Yeah,
Yes.
you can't beat that, but you gotta find the person that's in that right place.
Right.
You know, a freshly retired person,
Mhm.
that's drawn to retirement, that doesn't need medical.
Yeah.
And they're out there, They just gotta advertise and find it.
Is it also possible to have the SRO stay as the full-time position and like cut one of the full-time officers? Or is that not?
I don't think that's it, no. No. You should never sacrifice, road coverage for a utility position.
Well, you still have the road coverage based on the way this is set up. I mean, you have six. Well, you'd have
Well,
five.
let me ask you
But I'll
this.
say with no wiggle room.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, so. What do
Yeah,
you
the
think,
SRO.
what do you think the improvements have been in the town since we've been full staff for the most part? You know.
No, I mean, I'm not looking for a debate, I was just kind of.
Okay.
I was just kind of. It's the same conversation we had with Public Works, it's the same conversation.
Yeah.
We've had everywhere, obviously you can see how much money we're struggling with and taxes and everything else and, you know, police department's a huge, it's a huge line item and, yeah, I'm just trying to think of.
And I hear you and I've heard you, that's why I'm trying to find other.
Yeah,
ways.
yeah. So that's all, I'm not trying to, I'm just asking you the question and you said no, so that's fine. I'm just trying to think outside the box on areas that we could cut, although when the crap hits the fan,
Right.
this is not the position you want to, you know, this isn't the area you want cut. So I understand that. I was here a couple years ago when we were all complaining that there wasn't any coverage and things were going on. And so I understand that. I just having that, open
Yeah,
conversation.
no, I appreciate that.
About different ideas, that's all.
I think
And the
for,
fact that you said no is, that's
Yeah.
a fine answer,
No, I
I was
appreciate
just curious. So,
Can the county do anything to take off the edge or the ebbs and flows of staffing issues or?
well, that'd be a question for the county. I can tell you this, is there's about 4 officers in the county, or 4 deputies, and they patrol a area that is a crazy size. And to get, sometimes for them to respond to where they're going at code, it's 45 minutes. For an emergency call. So I mean. You know, we use them as backup sometimes. In fact, there's sometimes calls that we respond to for them because they're 45 minutes out. Whether you have a homicide right over the line, you know, that's not us, but we respond because we're pretty quick. You know, we're here. You know, they get there when they can. Of course, they're coming, but you know, they get there when they can.
so the proposal of the SRO being a part-time position and the school funding, all of that. That's not reflected in the budget.
It is not, it's a conversation that, you know, we wanted to
Is
have.
that something we want to entertain? Like,
I do.
is that
So
what,
Yeah.
Going that route.
just so I wrap my head around this, this is 5 plus the SRO,
Yes.
Well, actually, when you look at,
so it's really 7 off, 8 officers.
yeah, if you're counting me,
it's 8,
It's 8.
if you counted it.
yeah,
And did you say the sergeant is in this rotation?
he's not in the rotation, he's here, Monday through Friday,
Okay.
so.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So we'd be moving
Monday through Friday, 8-hour shift.
the conversation to move that to 7. So you still have your 5 full-time, your sergeant, your
Right.
chief. The SRO moves to part-time, which is a wash.
Well, SRO works full-time, but as SRO and as a part-time person.
And you're saving fringe, you're saving, you know, I mean,
Only works part-time?
Part-time as an SRO,
that's
and
it.
doesn't work for the town at all.
Well, they work for the town,
Now, they work for the town, but
right, because they
they're only
have to
covering the
work for
school
the town.
hours, they're not working 40 hours.
And they can't work any beyond that,
Okay.
because that uses up their entire
School.
hours for the year.
So
So
working school hours.
it's like they couldn't say, oh, I'll pick up a open shift, for the weekend, couldn't do it.
Can't do it.
When the school's on vacation, they're on vacation.
So we're really only picking up 13 weeks. We'd be saving 13 weeks at a full-time salary, basically. Is what we're looking at, so. your savings there is what? 26, 27 an hour, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. Yeah,
Probably 30 grand.
well, and you're also talking fringe. I mean,
Plus
I don't,
benefits and.
yeah, the
everything
benefits, I mean, you still gotta do PTO. Cause that's a requirement for everybody,
sure. Yeah.
you know, we deal with that.
I mean, I would just peg the savings, I would just right off the top of my head, I'd peg the savings at between 25 and 30,000.
Okay, yeah, I just did some quick math and came up like 24, so that's, yeah, that one.
And it's mostly fringe.
Yeah, absolutely.
How come there are no benefits in the budget here?
Just put it all in.
It's all consolidated under general government, just so
Okay.
that, yeah,
All right,
it was a transition, I think it was done like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, Jacob did that.
I mean, 25, 30,000 is real money.
Real money here. And I think we've got everything else, some, covered
Yeah,
more or less, so.
And that's a move that you would feel comfortable.
yeah, I mean, it's more of a heavier lift for some of us, you know, and don't have that extra officer, it's okay, I mean, I work the road and cover it when we can't get it, whether I send somebody to training and we got an open day, we do it, you know, it's not a big deal.
Let me just throw out a little hint of optimism here, right? So let's say you get this perfect person to do SRO and they're willing to be part-time, they're academy trained because they're retired. Then they're not gonna be capped at 1,000, so, and it'd be a part-timer, so if you needed to fill in a shift without overtime, you got the benefit of that person, so
that's kind of where I was going with my
that would
first
be the
thought.
best scenario.
If I could get that
If you
person,
could get that.
that's the
It
thing.
would basically just be a way to reduce some of the overtime.
Mhm.
2 years ago, there was a grant position
Yes,
that was
sir.
brought up to us.
A what?
There was a
Yes,
community.
oh, sorry,
There was a
that was totally
community,
different.
wasn't there a community officer, community relations officer, that was a grant position that they had talked about, there was funding for,
I'm familiar with grant programs that try to get a SRO program started and then they phase out. So they subsidize the first year or two of an SRO and then.
Isn't that our situation?
Yes, that's our situation.
It's a 3-year.
Yes, and she just wrote it into her budget, because she wanted an SRO
Mhm.
there.
Okay.
It was that important to them that they had somebody there. Because of course, grants drying up and who knows what kind of federal funding they're gonna be getting.
2 years ago, we talked about a position, and I thought it was a grant position that was supposed to be a community relations officer position, where kind of their role was to be in town.
I don't
And
recall that.
shape. I'm just wondering if there is some way to kind of work a line where we can. I can go back, it was 2
Yeah.
years ago.
I mean, I
It was
vaguely
before-
remember what
It was
you're talking
after
about.
we phased out the SRO, when medically he couldn't handle it.
The first time, yeah.
Yeah, so that was over 3 years ago.
Was that over?
Because I've been here 2.5,
Yeah,
Right,
and it was never any discussion for me.
Jesus, time flies.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
yeah,
But, for me, it was the focus of getting
Yeah,
that
that's probably-
SRO.
yeah. that was-
We were looking at
Anyway.
the grant for school resource / community outreach. That's what the school wasn't gonna pay for.
Right.
Community hours,
Yeah.
school said, no, we're not paying for this anymore, for that year. And then I think Mike wasn't able to
Right,
do it again, I just,
And then we.
I remember there being a grant for that, though, there was some money, as long as it was designated community outreach, community relations, something like that.
Well, to make you feel better about this is I have a community outreach person that doesn't cost a dime to the town, and it's a partnership that I have with a agency. Of course not, I can't even think of it. Keith, options, so they do all kinds, she's important to me, I got a bad memory. But, so he goes out and, he talks to the public that have, issues, mental health, in crisis. Again, he doesn't, all I have to provide for them is a space for them to meet if they really need it. And again, it's cost of taxpayers here, nothing.
That's all.
that is awesome.
And I was just trying to find a way to cover that shortfall if there was one, and that, especially in that summertime, you see
Right.
presents, what have you, if it's.
I mean, it doesn't sound like we have a shortfall, and the part-time SRO sounds like the way to go. Save us 30 grand.
Sounds doable.
Alright, let's make that change. And move on to anything else in the budget that people have questions or concerns of.
There is something I did add in there, that I didn't have last year was a speed sign. That is a mobile speed sign, because we get a ton of speed complaints, as you guys know, and everybody wants a speed sign. I borrowed one last year, from the company, and, we put it out, and it seemed to help, and, you know, the residents were pretty happy about it. Of course, now we have that other one, but that one's not mobile. The one I buy would be. Anytime you get, you know, someone complaining about speeding on your road, you can just get out and deploy it and be done with it.
Yeah.
I'm grateful the state screwed up my road under the overpass.
Yeah.
It slowed everybody. Oh, right there's beautiful.
Right.
What line does that fall under?
Yeah, come on, sorry.
That falls under,
That can be on equipment. purchase.
Equipment purchase.
Yeah. No, that's right in line.
Radar gun.
yeah, so it's in the same one with the radar gun. It's $4,500 for that. Which is,
Yeah, 2005.
yeah.
Yep. Don't think. Contracts and rent, does that payment must not have hit yet? We're at like $3,300 and
No, I wouldn't have.
we
That's
have budgeted 30 grand.
That's the county payment.
I don't know.
Yeah, we have one more payment for that, right, I believe, we're waiting for that.
You're
Like,
like,
it will be done with it.
Well, there's like-
Vacation center.
well, no, I'm looking at 2505.
Yeah, we have, I think there's just one more. I know it's paid off in the 26 one. I noted that.
But we haven't made that payment yet.
No, we're holding off on, everybody's holding off on their payment. Because they were supposed to start, we actually was supposed to have a live, last year, and they've been dragging it out. This is this new program that basically, everybody's been forced to go to.
Not cover it.
Because our current systems are,
From 26
One
one.
of the-
So that would be.
But why is it?
We could remove part of that from this budget, the 2025 package, that covers it. It's already in there.
That's the drop.
It's in there for 29.
Well, what's this?
29.
Is that being done? Are you making that payment in the next couple months?
I'd have to check with Tina and see when that's scheduled, because that would either be, it looks like that's scheduled for this.
Right.
And the 24 is already.
we specifically talk about that payment coming.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm just trying to,
I'll have to go back and just look at that schedule. I know,
yeah, if you could,
I know we paid the 2024.
Yeah, you can see that 23 is paid.
well, you can see 25 half year and then. I guess maybe that's what it is.
If that payment is not actually due in the 6 month, then we just have to reserve it, hold it, and just pay it where it is.
Right, but you could then drop the,
But which we did, because it's 31 versus 56 last year. See?
Well, it was only.
no, but if that's for, if this gets rolled over
Yeah,
to that, then
yeah.
doesn't that drop?
Cause that payment was only 25,000 or something. wasn't it?
Yeah, it's 27, I think, 27, maybe.
Yeah, so we should be. Our
Oh, I
25,
mean, yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff.
our
Well,
20,
there's a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, our
But if we can-
2025 budget should be. That should cover it. What's in the half year budget should cover,
First the
yeah,
payment. Oh, which maybe it does if you add up all this other.
So all that stuff adds up to the 31,885. And there's no Comcast.
Oh,
payment in
Comcast
there.
paid off.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Must have a big payment coming up, but I can put something. Anyway, moving on. Up in 2505, you have cell phones for 8 grand, but then down here you have telephones for. Like 10.
The telephones with our telephone system, here. The cell phones are totally separate, and actually, we're trying to get that lower, we're trying. When I first started here, they had a contract with US Cellular, and we're trying to get through US Cellular contract so we can go to the cheaper.
I remember talking about this last year.
Yeah, and we're getting close, because as we're getting close, we contact the new provider, and they'll transition and buy out the existing.
Cell phone's expensive.
Oh, yeah, they're expensive.
Where are you pulling your gasoline from? Oh, work. What? Huh? I'm just wondering, you know, just adds up to later conversations.
You're
Yeah.
gonna get the gasoline business.
So we using too much gas?
No, I'm trying
Craig's
to
always
figure
interested
out.
in the price of gas.
Well, I wanna move to a Wex card system.
We've talked
yeah.
about that, and
I wanna
we've,
get the hell out
Yeah.
of storage.
that's actually, I think you guys gave approval to do that,
We did.
last year.
Yeah.
That's another one. I remember.
Yeah, no, yeah, everybody,
Craig's not
Making
gonna
this up.
no, everybody voted for it,
And then-
and you guys said, hey, let's do it.
And then behind the scenes, we're gonna line the diesel tanks
For
and
70
keeping
grand.
them and.
Yeah, cause they were talking about digging those up and having the
Yep.
state.
Yeah, we told her,
Yeah, and, yeah, no.
Conversation for. Okay.
You provided unbelievable impact right there. The value right there is awesome. 70 grand worth. Actually.
No, the change to the SRO is helpful.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah.
over the time I've been here, I'm sure you guys seen, I mean, I've been trying to cut different lines and, you know, I'm not Elon, I'm not using a chainsaw, you know, I'm trying to surgically get it done and, you know, and still provide us, you know, better services than we've ever had, so.
I mean, I think this is a budget, right? A lot of what we're seeing is wish list.
Less than a budget.
It's not a budget, it's a wish list, right? Like, let's throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. This is actually kind of meat and potatoes
Yeah.
with what we need, right? And that's a big difference. And,
All right. Any other questions for Vinny on his budget? Things are outside of your control anyway. The officers go to like the training down in Portland, they take in the cruisers,
When they can, in fact,
sometimes they don't.
well, if there's no, yes, if there's no cruiser available, in fact,
Okay.
there was a training here
Curious.
well, no, there's a training recently, because someone had mentioned this to me, and I guess I wanna put it out to you guys. It was fully reimbursed from MMA, the travel from, the personal vehicle and everything else, so it actually saved the town, not the wear and tear on our vehicles.
Yeah,
You know, that was completely reimbursed, in fact, MMA reached out to me and said, hey, do you have anybody? Cause I got a relationship with these guys, you know, do you have anybody that could be an instructor for, vehicle operations? I'm like, yes, we do. You know, let's put us on the map as, you know, leading, you know, the area, not following.
yeah, okay, yeah, we just had seen.
Oh, yeah.
Gas and we were like, wait a minute.
Well, and
This doesn't
another
make
thing is you see the old cruiser right out front today, I don't know if you guys saw that. Because someone's going to training tomorrow, actually, I brought it back I borrowed it from Public Works.
Yeah.
Last week, because we had 3 people going to a training, and I piled them in that car, and it was local, it wasn't far, so it wasn't too big a deal. And now someone's going to training tomorrow, so I'm swapping out, I'm gonna use it, because if it breaks down on me, it breaks down on me. And they'll take the truck to the training site, so they can make it, have no issues.
Making it work.
Any other questions for Vinny on his budget? Think we're good, man. Thank you.
yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Let's see. I lost my,
Last but not least.
yeah, animal control. Animal control is on page 18.
Animal issues.
No,
Definitely
I
not
still
cats,
say,
right?
I still say now that everybody.
no, talking about cats,
We're
yeah.
not talking about cats anymore.
No.
Jason,
You
now,
wanna-
Now that everybody was gonna argue with us over capital, I said we do it tonight, they left.
Yeah.
We can blow through this quick
Yeah.
right after Russell.
Cancel
We
it,
can move
cancel
through
it.
this fast.
I'm okay with that.
I think
We're
that's
allowed to
easy.
change our minds.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Already on the agenda.
Sorry, Russell, I could have bumped you ahead of Vinny at least, but
Okay.
sorry about that. Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Russell on his budget?
I told him I'd stand up here.
It's all pretty well. I mean, the water bill humane society is still the same contract.
Still the same contract,
It's
best
the
you're gonna
only-
find in the area, they're
Yeah,
all,
it's the only
yeah,
show in town and
yep,
it is what it is kind of thing.
unless you guys wanna open a shelter.
No.
There's a lady here, remember?
Oh, yeah, it's in
They're there.
Wrong, yeah, yeah.
And let's put this on record, I do not wanna give donations to other clinics outside of here that aren't asking for them either.
Right.
Yeah, it's so hard.
If you'd like to
Brutal.
fundraise for that clinic, you
Yeah.
can put it on and you can fundraise all you'd like. And they are super helpful. I know a lot of people that do use them.
Oh, just-
Appreciate them. but,
And another thing, I know we're doing the budget, but he's done a really good job, this last year, even as an SRO, all these other busy duties. He did put together a clinic, that was actually requested, I'm not sure by which council member, but wanted to do a shot clinic, and we did our very first one here.
Yep, we did it right over at the Elks Lodge, and
Nice.
it was a good turnout, you
That's
know.
awesome.
You know, it was the first one in years, so it's coming along, I'm gonna do another one this summer. You know,
Excellent.
we had people there doing nail trimmings for dogs, somebody else engraving tags on scene. Things like that to help the public and solve problems when animals run away, you know, if you have
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
there that can already handle that. And engrave tags,
Awesome.
yes.
Yeah, great.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
Not a problem.
Certainly appreciate all the hard work you're doing. You got some work to do with skunks, but
Yeah.
you know, possums too. Never seen a
Yeah.
possum in life that was running across our yard.
Oh, really?
There was
Like, what in the
one,
hell?
Skunks moved out, now the pop.
I'm like, where do I live right now?
no, there was a possum in my garage.
That's
Oh,
exactly
so
what happened.
gross.
All their dens are empty now.
Yeah,
Possums are moving.
Yeah.
Anyway, any questions for Russell?
Good.
Yeah, we're
I
good.
think so.
Sorry, we could have
It's
bumped you,
okay.
bumped everybody else.
He enjoys listening.
Yeah, he's educated now.
Yep, exactly.
He's IT support too, if we had any.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
true, yeah, IT, yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Looks good.
Yes,
Thanks
we're
so
good.
much.
Not a problem.
Um. We can, I mean, debt service, do we wanna talk about debt service or any of that stuff? I mean, it's, yeah, we're after 9, I don't know.
I'm good.
Huh?
I'm good, too. I can get up early.
You don't want me to participate in.
Betty White?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That'll be a quick one next time.
we can move. Capital and debt service and general fund revenues, yes. To the next agenda, is that, all right,
When's our next meeting?
next Tuesday.
A regular meeting?
Next Tuesday is a regular meeting, and then.
And you're not here, so we can't do any budget stuff.
I mean, you guys.
Well, we just, yeah, I mean, we will,
We have to do capital,
huh,
we have to do capital.
yeah, we might. It depends,
Sure.
we can, all right, so that part is done, but we do have a. Public date for budget adoption. Resolution 2547.
So based on the budget calendar.
Well, you wanna
tonight-
read that first? Resolution, the town council set blank is the public hearing date for the public hearing on the adoption of the proposed FY 25-26 municipal budget. We have proposed, oh, sorry. Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion, we. Open for discussion, resolution 2537.
Moved and seconded. So we had proposed May 20th. Date for the public hearing. I would think we would probably want to move that to the first meeting in June.
June 3rd.
Is that
Mhm.
June 3rd?
The Memorial Week, no, it's the week after.
No, we can't, yeah, it's a week after Memorial, but
Yeah, I think it's
Works.
that,
works.
yeah, I think we're gonna have a few more things to discuss and wrap up and.
Think we'll be ready for public by then?
I do.
Well, I mean, I think we have the next week's we have 2 more meetings before then.
That's what gives us.
The sixth, we have the 6th and the 20th, we could also,
We can add in.
you could have a special one on the 13th if you wanted one. If we wanted one,
It's 5 weeks. I think that's plenty of time.
I would love to be involved in capital.
or do you want, I mean, it's either that or the 17th of June, but that leaves.
The third's fine, if we can get it done.
If that didn't pass that night, then you would. Be up against it, right?
I mean. Yeah, and if the public hearing's on the 3rd, you still have weeks to continue, the council can continue to discuss, right? After the
Right.
hearing, but you gotta just, yeah. I mean, we got an early start just for this reason that we would have that, flexibility in June if we needed it.
Yeah. I think we set it for the 3rd. Go from there. Anybody? Good with that?
I'm good with that.
Good. All right,
Alright, so then the resolution, I. Make a motion that we amend the resolution as proposed to public hearing set for June 3rd. And we approve resolution 2547.
moved and seconded. All those in favor of resolution 2547 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Resolution 2547 passes.
So Craig, you can't be here next Tuesday,
Cannot.
so do we wanna hold on our last few items until the 13th?